What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was framed by Tsunade and banished, only to return with his parents' bloodline? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Kyuubi attack, Konoha Hospital. Push Kushina. Just one more. Tsunade yelled. Kushina screamed and gave everything she had left for a final push. Tsunade smiled a minute later. You have a son, scalpel. Tsunade said and held out her left hand. A moment later she grabbed the scalpel, but didn't even notice she cut her index finger. She cut the umbilical cord, gave him a quick wipe down with a towel and a gentle swat on the butt. A moment later he cried, making her smile. As Tsunade was changing her grip to move up and hand him to Kushina, like the other people in the room, she failed to notice a single drop of her blood fly from her moving hand, and by sheer chance, or maybe fate, went into the newborn blonde boy's mouth, making him smile. Tsunade handed the baby to Kushina. Here's your son, Kushina-chan. Do you have a name for him? Kushina smiled as only a new mother could as she accepted her newborn son. Hi, she said tiredly. We decided to name him after a character in one of Jiraiya's books. And don't look at me like that, Tsunade. His name is Naruto. Tsunade sighed and shook her head a moment. Okay, fine, I can live with that, especially if he's anything like you were as a kid. At that moment Minato appeared in a yellow flash. The concern on his face was replaced by a huge grin as he saw Kushina. Say hello to your son Naruto, Minato-kun. Kushina said. A monstrous roar suddenly echoed throughout the hospital from outside. Minato stepped up to the bed, kissed Kushina on the lips briefly but passionately, and looked at his new son. He's adorable, he even has my hair and eyes. Minato said tenderly, then swallowed nervously. Kyuubi is attacking Konoha. Nothing we've tried has any effect. Within minutes it'll reach the walls and then thousands will die. Can't you do anything, Minato-kun? I'm still too weak to be moved. Please, I don't want our son to die. There must be something you can do. Kushina said, slightly panicked. Minato nodded sadly. There is one jutsu I can use that'll work, but to use it I must sacrifice my life. Minato said sadly. I'll do it then, tell me what. Tsunade said strongly. No, Ba-chan, there isn't time to show you, and there's something else. I'll need Naruto. Minato said and saw the shock and horror on Tsunade and Kushina's faces. It tore him apart, but there was no other way. The only way to stop Kyuubi is to seal it in stay Naruto. Only a newborn's undeveloped chakra coils will work, there's no other way. I'm truly sorry, but I will not ask anyone else to make this sacrifice, but I know he'll be loved with you and Ba-chan raising him. Minato said, his voice calm but still filled with heart-wrenched sadness. Kushina hugged baby Naruto to her chest, tears streaming down her face. It went against everything she was, and she felt like her heart was being ripped from her chest, but she knew Minato better than anyone. He wouldn't ask if there was any other way. She kissed Naruto on the forehead, and gave Minato an absolutely stone-cold glare that would have made Kyuubi cringe in fear. You swear to me, Minato Namikaze, on everything you love, that this will work and I'll get our son back, or I swear to Kami I'll hunt you down in the afterlife and drag you back here so I can kick your ass all over Fire Country. Kushina said powerfully. Tsunade flinched, even she was impressed by that. I promise. Minato said, then sadly accepted baby Naruto, and gave Kushina a very passionate kiss on the lips. I'll love you forever, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, he said, then vanished in a yellow flash. Tsunade took Kushina's hand as her friend broke down in a torrent of tears. Jiraiya will be with him. He'll bring Naruto back. He won't dare risk having both of us chasing his perverted old ass. He knows we'd do worse than kill him if he let something happen to your son. Kushina nodded and laughed a moment, despite her tears. Minato-kun won't fail. He's never broken a promise to me, you know how he is. Tsunade nodded. Minato doesn't know how to fail. If there's anyone in the world that can pull this off, it's him. You rest, I'm going to check on Shizune and get Naruto registered. Tsunade said and turned to the nurse, the only other person in the room. Take her back to her room. No one is to enter her room but me or Shizune. If anyone disturbs her rest before I clear her in the morning, they'll have to deal with me, and I won't be in a good mood. Understood? Tsunade said in a deathly cold voice. Then you and I will have a little talk. The nurse cringed in fear, she'd never seen fury like that in anyone, yet still restrained. H. Hi Tsunade. Tsunade left the room. -3 minutes later, outside Konoha. Standing on Gamabunta's head, Minato was finishing the hand signs. When it's done, you better get Naruto back to Kushina or you'll have her and Tsunade after you. Jiraiya cringed at the thought. Hi. Goodbye Minato. Jiraiya said sadly, then watched Minato finish his jutsu. A moment later Kyuubi froze, let out a blood-curdling roar of agony then exploded. When the air cleared a few moments later he looked and saw Minato was dead and there was a seal on Naruto's stomach more intricate than any he'd ever seen before. It glowed a moment then faded away. Sighing sadly Jiraiya scooped up baby Naruto. Take us back Bunta, I have some good and bad news to relay. I'll miss him. What's the kid's name? Gamabunta asked sadly. Naruto. Jiraiya said. Gamabunta made a mental note of it for the future, then turned and leapt back toward Konoha. -2 minutes later, Konoha Hospital, Kushina's room. With you both dead Root will raise your demon brat as Konoha's ultimate weapon. The Anbu said struggling with Kushina who was holding his wrists, but he was overpowering her quickly. The kunai was moving toward her chest about an inch every 3 seconds, she had maybe 10 seconds to live. She was using every ounce of strength she had but knew in her condition it wasn't enough, even for an elite Junin of Whirlpool and last member of the Uzumaki clan. A tear ran down each cheek, she knew she wouldn't see her son grow up. It was something she hadn't done since she was a kid, and it would drain her remaining strength, but it was her only chance of survival. She closed her eyes, said a quick prayer, then sucked in as much as she could and screamed from the very bottom of her soul. As the kunai pierced her left over her heart the door and surrounding wall exploded into the hallway. The Root Anbu instantly looked toward the door, despite a lifetime of conditioning to not panic, to feel no fear. What he saw terrified him to his core. Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of the first and second Hokages, one of the legendary Sannin, the greatest med nin in the world, feared for her unequaled strength, was staring at him in an absolute rage. Crash, check on Kushina, Tsunade roared, jumped Kushina's bed then leapt out the hole where the wall used to be. Shizune bit her bottom lip nervously, then ran to the bedside as she flashed through the hand signs for a healing jutsu. Tsunade landed from her jump a block away, about 10 feet from the Anbu, his mask shattered, as was his jaw, lying dazed in a heap in the street. Her impact left a shallow 6-foot crater. She was quickly at his side, grabbed his collar with her left and yanked him off his feet. "WHO sent you to kill her?" Tsunade roared in his face with pure rage. Surrounding windows shattered. He shook his head no. Tsunade grabbed his left upper arm in her right hand, and crushed the bone into millions of tiny shards. "There are over 100 bones in the body, that was one," Tsunade said in a cold, sadistic voice, her mind and emotions now focused on a single task. He screamed in agony but shook his head again. "You had your chance to do this the easy way," Tsunade said in that same voice, then with her free hand reached down and grabbed his balls. "I hope you got laid recently, because it'll never happen again." His eyes got as big as saucers. He weighed his options at lightning speed and made his choice. Danzo, Root wants the demon brat for a weapon, he said as best he could with a shattered jaw. Luckily for him Tsunade understood him, despite how unintelligible it would sound to anyone else. Just then 6 Anbu appeared, one of them a woman with long purple hair to her waist. The leader a thin man a little taller than her with spiky silver hair. She recognized both immediately. "This garbage is a member of Root, he just tried to murder Kushina in her hospital bed under Danzo's orders. Take him to Ibiki and tell that scar-faced sadist I want a full confession no matter what it takes." The silver-haired Anbu in the wolf mask twitched as one hand went to his weapon pouch. "And I want him alive no matter what," Tsunade commanded, turned around and ran towards the hospital at top speed. "Take him to Ibiki, I'm going to the hospital," the silver-haired Junin said then vanished in a swirl of leaves. -1 minute later, hospital, Kushina's room. Tsunade leapt into the room through the open side of the room, visibly a little panicked. "Is Kushina-chan okay?" "I'm fine you overdeveloped lush, Shizune healed me good as new, I won't even have a scar. I'm lucky I have big boobs. But if I was built like you his kunai never could have reached my heart and I'd have killed him instead of fighting." Now give me a hug before I pass out, you crazy bitch. Kushina said with a tired smile. Smiling happily, Tsunade ran over and hugged her old friend. I hate this damn village, but there's no way I'm leaving you to raise my godson alone. There was a huge crash from just outside, and a moment later Jiraiya jumped in through the huge hole in the wall. I think someone lost this, you women have to be more careful. Kushina gasped loudly and held out her arms. Let me see him. Jiraiya walked over and handed Naruto to her as his face went solemn. Everything went as planned, he's dead. Jiraiya said sadly. I should flatten you for that, Jiraiya. But a rude Anbu just tried to kill Kushina. Tsunade said seriously. So that was your chakra I felt. I take it he didn't get away? Jiraiya said. No, he didn't, but I didn't kill him. I did worse, I sent him to Ibiki for a full confession. Tsunade said. He was better off with you. Jiraiya said with a smirk. Everyone half suppressed a laugh. Tsunade saw his glance. It was that bastard Danzo, he ordered it. That dried-up son of a bitch just tried to kill Kushina and turn our godson into some mindless weapon. Care to join me for some fun? Tsunade asked with a sadistic smile and cracked her knuckles. Jiraiya knew Tsunade very well, he knew exactly what she was thinking. You know how I feel about the old days, but in this case I'll make an exception. Council chambers? Tsunade nodded. I'll guard Kushina. Everyone turned to the doorway and smiled, especially Kushina. Good to see you again, Kakashi-kun. Kushina said with a tired smile, her eyes half closed. Tsunade and Jiraiya smiled at each other. No one got by Kakashi, especially if it was personal, and in this case it was. They nodded to him and leapt out the hole in the wall. We need to move her to another room, Shizune said. -8 minutes later, council chambers. The huge double doors crashed to the floor, knocked off the hinges. Standing in the doorway was a very angry Tsunade with her right fist still extended. To her left was Jiraiya, also very angry, which for him was very rare. I take it you have a good reason for this, Tsunade? Sarutobi said, as he was presiding over the meeting. Damn right I do, Tsunade said, then stormed in stopping center room, her ki filling the room. The civilian half of the council was ready to run from the room screaming in terror. You've heard about Minato, I assume? Tsunade asked, not surprised when everyone nodded. Jiraiya grabbed Tsunade's shoulder when he saw Damzo's smile and she tensed up further. Not yet, I'll handle this. Jiraiya said calmly, though he wasn't actually calm. We just came from the hospital. An assassin just attacked Kushina Uzumaki, a personal guest of the 4th Hokage. She was an outsider and a whore trying to infiltrate Konoha through seduction of our former Hokage. She deserved to die. And we know Minato sealed the Kyuubi in his bastard son. He must be turned over to Root immediately. The assassin is dead, I assume, then we'll never know who hired him. Danzo said calmly. Bastard is good, I'll give him that. He probably has a speech ready for anything he thinks will happen. Jiraiya thought, then inwardly smiled. He glanced at Tsunade, and was very impressed she was able to restrain herself, but he also knew she was on the edge of losing it. Jiraiya smiled. I didn't say Kushina was dead. Gasps filled the room. Jiraiya saw Danzo's calm expression crack. As for the assassin, he's having a talk with Ibiki as we speak. He's doing his best anyway. Unfortunately he was badly injured before he was arrested. How badly injured? Danzo asked, a very subtle nervous inflection in his voice. I shattered his left arm, his jaw, and probably broke some ribs when I cocked him through the hospital wall. He landed in the street a block away. Tsunade said with a sadistic smile, obviously proud of herself and doing nothing to hide that fact. And we know who hired the assassin, he told Kushina and Tsunade. It was a rude Anbu, which you're in charge of. Jiraiya said and pointed to Danzo. Tsunade suddenly exploded from her spot, flashing through hand signs at a speed that defied description. Living coffin, Tsunade yelled as she grabbed Danzo's face with her right hand, now glowing with green chakra. Danzo screamed in pure agony as his entire body violently shook. Tsunade released him about 10 seconds later and he slumped limply in his chair. She looked down at him with a huge smile of satisfaction on her face. Tsunade, what did you do to him? Sarutobi asked calmly, but some shock showed on his face. That was a special medical jutsu I created years ago. I didn't kill him. That's too good for him. Before her son was born, Minato and Kushina named me godmother of her child. Wick makes her family. Have you heard of the Uzumaki blood oath? Tsunade asked. Sarutobi nodded and sighed. I see. So what did you do to him? I locked him in an endless nightmare and suppressed his consciousness so deeply into his mind he can never be recovered. There is no counter to this jutsu. I created it specially to be unbreakable by anyone. Physically he's alive, but for all intents and purposes, he's brain dead. Tsunade said, I want the council to know that I was named godfather of their child, and if anyone else wants to try anything. Kushina was legally married to Minato last year. The wedding was witnessed by me, Tsunade, and makes their son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, heir to the Namikaze clan estate, as well as the Uzumaki clan from Whirlpool, which Kushina, and now Naruto, are the only living members. Jiraiya said, any objections to making this public record? Sarutobi asked. Most of the council was stunned by this. The civilian portion whispered among themselves a moment. No objections, the civilian council leader said. No objections, Hiyashi said for the clan heads. We must find a new Hokage as soon as possible. An elder female civilian council member said. Forget it, I'm not the right person for the job. Jiraiya said. Anyone that even suggests my name I'll kill. Tsunade said coldly. I'll be Hokage again until a replacement can be found. Sarutobi said, then summoned 2 Anbu. Take Danzo to Anbu headquarters and put him in Section 8. If that's all, dismissed. Sarutobi said. Come on Tsunade, let's get a drink, I'm buying. Jiraiya said. Tsunade's eyebrows went up in surprise, then she smiled. I can't pass this up, you're on. Tsunade said then followed Jiraiya out. -1 week later, Namikaze Estate. Kushina smiled as she watched the second scariest kunoichi in Konoha, a woman that was surpassed in battle fierceness and strength of will only by Tsunade, making the most adorable little puppy sounds and faces as she tickled Naruto's chin with her fingers, which made him smile. I'll be white back whittle Naruto Peru. Sume Inuzuka said in a soft childish voice, then turned and in a blur of speed crossed the large room and had the claw-like nails of her right hand dug into Asuma's balls as she squeezed rather hard. Laugh at me again and I'll forget who your father is, understood? Sume said coldly, her large fangs bared menacingly, then lifted Asuma up on his toes. Asuma nodded immediately. Sume released and walked back to Kushina. I told you not to laugh at her. Kakashi said calmly, but inside was laughing his ass off. Cough cough. I'll listen to you next time. Her ears are as sharp as her nose. Asuma said, wincing slightly. Not as sharp as her claws though. Kakashi said, smiling beneath his mask, then dodged a punch from Asuma. Kushina giggled, she watched the scene from across the room. She turned to her left, baby Naruto cradled in that arm, and smiled. May I hold him? Hana Hyuga asked happily. Hiyashi and Hizashi glanced at each other. Of course, when are you due? Kushina said then gently handed Naruto to her. About 2 months, Hana said. You're just so adorable I can't stand it. Hana cooed at Naruto. We're sorry for your lose, we'll miss him as well. If there's anything we can do for you or your son, just ask. Hiyashi said. I insist, he was one of the few outside the clan to attend my wedding. Hana said. Thank you. Kushina said and bowed her head a moment. Are the whisker marks on his cheeks from? Hana asked. Hi, otherwise he's healthy. Kushina said. May I check him? Hana asked, smiled when Kushina nodded, then activated her Byakugan without a word or hand sign and looked closely at baby Naruto in her arms for a few moments, then gasped and deactivated it. Is something wrong? Kushina asked slightly nervous. His chakra coils are as large as a seasoned genin's, and he has a second set or red chakra coils that are slightly larger. It's only been a week, he shouldn't be this developed yet, even being what he is. Hana said. Kushina didn't know what to say. Jiraiya had told her this would happen, that he'd have huge chakra reserves and larger chakra coils than normal, but not to this extent this early. She scanned the room then waved over Jiraiya and Tsunade. Both were at her side a moment later, they could see the concern on her face from across the room. Tell them what you just told me Hana. Kushina said. Naruto. Age 5. Standing outside of the 12-feet circle in her black battlesuit, minus the red armor plating, right arm bare and holding a wooden sword, her waist-length red hair in a ponytail. She smiled at her opponent in the center of the circle. One more time, and trust your instincts you only get one strike. Be sure only hit the real me. Kushina said then made the hand sign. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. 9 more Kushinas appeared around the circle and all 10 began running around it at blinding speed. Standing 20 feet away, Tsunade watched intently. Naruto was in his normal sleeveless black shirt, black wristbands, black pants and shinobi sandals, all thinly trimmed in red, and holding a wooden sword with both hands. She was still impressed at how calm and focused he was, especially since they'd been doing this for almost 4 hours and she'd struck him dozens of times. He was so close to completing Kushina's latest exercise she could feel it. She'd seen the pattern Kushina was currently using that morning and knew he had to have it nearly figured out. Right on time the first attack came. Kushina attacked with a horizontal slash from his left that he ducked, then immediately raised his sword overhead, pointing behind him to block the second attack, then leapt back 4 feet to avoid an overhead slash from the third Kushina, holding it in front of his face, then dropped into a split and tilted his head to the right an inch to avoid a thrust from behind that had aimed at his chest, then smiled as he'd also flipped it upside down with his lower left hand as the pivot, re-grabbed it as he thrust the point of the wooden blade up behind himself and struck the fourth Kushina directly between her large S with an audible thunk. Am I a shadow clone or the original? That Kushina asked calmly, no emotion in her voice. The original, Naruto said calmly. Are you sure? Kushina asked. Hi, you match the others in every way, including smell, but there's one thing you can't hide that I first noticed last time. Naruto said. Tsunade let out a quiet sigh. She'd been expecting something new to happen very soon. And what might that be? Kushina asked, still in the same position she was when Naruto's blade struck her, and was still pressed into her chest. I can feel your blood, the others don't have it. Naruto said calmly. Kushina was only slightly surprised. In the last year he developed several very unusual abilities not related to Kyuubi. Tsunade had finally found a reference to some of the abilities Naruto was displaying. With help from Tsunade, Jiraiya and Sarutobi they knew it was a bloodline limit of some kind, but the only term that applied hadn't been used in thousands of years: vampire. Right, Kushina said, stood and dispelled her clones. Naruto pulled off his blindfold, stood, turned, gave her a bow, then smiled, jumped up and hugged her. Kushina smiled, caught him and returned his hug with several kisses. I'm so proud of you, Naru-kun. Naruto leaned back so he could see her face. Proud enough to make me your special ramen? Naruto asked, only a little excited. I guess. Go get cleaned up for lunch, then we're going to have a serious talk about this new ability. Kushina said, the last part seriously. Naruto hopped down and nodded. Hi, Ka-sensei. Our training is over for the day, call me Ka-san, or at least mom, smart ass. Kushina said with a smirk. Hi, Kushi-san, Naruto said, then turned and ran off. Kushina clenched her jaw a few moments as Tsunade got close, giggling. He'll be gone another 5 days, you'll have to wait. Tsunade said. Kushina nodded. One of these days I'm going to castrate that son of a bitch for telling Naruto that story. Kushina said. He spends most of his time training, you can't blame him for wanting to have a little fun occasionally. I promised not to tell him, not Jiraiya. And do I need to remind you what you were like at his age? Tsunade said with a smirk. Kushina tensed up a moment, then sighed and slumped. Point taken, if I had half his ability when I was 5 I'd have been a real terror. I could have pranked anyone in Whirlpool and gotten away with it. Besides, you get off easy, Kushina-chan, you know what he calls me. Tsunade said, and cringed slightly. I'm still not fond of hearing him call me Ba-chan, but it beats the hell of the other nickname, at least he only does it 1 day a year, and I had to bribe him to get that. Tsunade said. Kushina giggled a moment. You have any of that sake left in your room? Yeah, half a bottle. Tsunade said. I'll split it with you over lunch. Kushina said. Tsunade smiled, nodded and saw the subtle shift on Kushina's face. And don't bother asking me what that bribe was, I won't tell you. Tsunade said. I don't want you cutting any of my favorite body parts off either. Tsunade thought. September 1st, 7:35 a.m. Naruto. Age 6. Naruto crossed the main hall to the front door where his mother, Ba-chan and Jiraiya-sensei were standing, all with a smile. He knew what was coming, but since they were at home he didn't mind. He stopped in front of his mom, put down his bag and held out his arms for her. As he predicted, she picked him up, hugged him tightly and went all whimpery about her baby leaving home. Mom, you are so predictable sometimes. But at least you did it here instead of the academy main gate. You'd ruined my image. Naruto said, sounding like a teenager, but when you're as smart as he was, that was expected. I wonder if Shikamaru goes through this with his mom? Kami, I wish I was stupid sometimes. Well, that's what I get for being a genius WTH and overprotective mother. But I wouldn't want her any other way. Naruto thought and smiled. I know, but I can't help it. Just remember what I said about your katana. Be very careful if you use your abilities. And I don't need to remind you what could happen if you use your red chakra in public. Kushina said seriously. Naruto nodded. I do, and I shouldn't need it at all. Compared to training under you, Ba-chan and Jiraiya-sensei, this'll be easy. Naruto said and gave her a big smile. Smart ass. Just be good. Kushina said. Naruto smirked and nodded, then moved to Tsunade. Tsunade got down on her right knee so she was at his level. We know you've got a temper like your mother and I, and you'll be the strongest thanks to my training. Don't let either get out of control, and if you use any of those abilities on anyone without a very good reason. Tsunade said and glared at him. Amon. Make us proud, show him how great you are and don't show off much. Tsunade said, the last word quietly. Naruto nodded when she glared at him, then smiled briefly before he hugged her. As usual, he felt a small rush of power. Kushina sighed quietly and rolled her eyes at Tsunade. She'd heard Tsunade say, much, and that they knew she had. She rolled her eyes at me, didn't she? Tsunade asked, and smirked when Naruto nodded. Naruto moved to Jiraiya, who was even more predictable to him than. He knew what Jiraiya was going to say almost word for word. You'll be top student without even trying. I want you to make me proud and be a Lady Kyler like me and your father. Jiraiya said and flinched when he heard her cough. Well, like your father before he met your beautiful forgiving mother. Jiraiya said, the last line slightly nervous, then smiled at Kushina, who gave him a glare. I'll make plenty of new friends. Naruto said, then winked at Jiraiya with his right eye so his mom and Tsunade wouldn't see him. I better get going. I'm meeting my squad at the academy gate. Naruto said with a smirk. You and your squad better not cause any trouble or you won't see them for a month. Kushina said. Tsunade smirked as she held in her laughter. Naruto nodded, picked up his bag and took off for the main gate of the estate. Kushina waited until he was clear. Did it happen again? Tsunade nodded. I think I know why now, but you aren't ready to hear it. Tsunade thought. 7:45 a.m., Academy front gate. Naruto walked through the front gate, ignoring the other kids and parents for the most part, and stopped a moment to scan the courtyard. He had his usual black outfit on, with two exceptions. The first, and most obvious, was his new jacket he'd found waiting for him on the back of his usual chair that morning when he entered the dining room for breakfast. It was black and sleeveless with red trim. A large red swirl dominated the upper back. The shoulders had red fringes webbed with the same armored mesh many older shinobi wore, like his favorite aunt, Anko. You couldn't see it, but the jacket had several layers of the armored mesh woven into it and was reinforced with several powerful seals by Jiraiya. He had on 3 inches wide, half-inch thick, black metal wristbands and fingerless, armored, black, shinobi gloves. The other change was sticking out the collar behind his head and right shoulder, the hilt and handle of his new katana. His bag hung at his left side, filled with his books and various supplies, not counting the 2 pouches on his belt. Find NG his squad, the friends he'd grown up with, he headed over to them, his face calm as always. First to jump up and greet him, as usual, was Tenten. I love your new jacket. Squeal, is that a new katana? Tenten said excitedly. Good morning to you to Tenten. Naruto said dryly. Tenten blushed slightly. Sorry, good morning Naruto-kun. Tenten said. Naruto chuckled as the other 2 girls got close. You can see it later Tenten, I promise. Naruto said, then gave her a quick hug when she pouted sadly. Morning Hinata-chan, Ino-chan. What do you say Ino? Ino walked up close and circled him, pausing a few times to examine the jacket. Doesn't look right, maybe a nice bright orange. Ino said seriously. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and glared at her. You better be joking, you know what everyone will see hanging from the flagpole. Ino swallowed nervously. I was. I love your new jacket, we'll definitely set the standard. That's some of Hotaru's best work. I love the back, and those red fringes just make it pop, very cool. Ino said happily, not trying to think about her undergarment hanging from the flagpole. I agree with Ino-chan. I love your new jacket, Naruto-kun. Hinata said with a smile. Cool jacket, subtle and efficient, I'd expect nothing less. We have time for a game of shogi if you don't mind some humiliation first thing in the morning. Shikamaru said casually. Choji laughed then munched some chips. You remind me of father's beetles. Shino said in his usual monotone voice. Ino shuddered a moment. Don't compare Naruto to your bugs, Shino. Creeps me out. Do it again and I'll soak your coat with perfume. Shino looked at Ino and raised both eyebrows high. You wouldn't. Ino put her hands on her hips and smiled deviously at him. Try me, bug boy. Knock it off, Ino. You know what that'll do to his bugs. Naruto said. Something is eating my roses in my garden at home. You save my roses, keep my flower garden pest-free, and not only will I apologize for everything I've said about your bugs for the last month, but I'll personally landscape your mom's garden with any plants she wants, for free. Ino said seriously. Take the deal, Shino. Naruto and Shikamaru said in unison. Shino almost smiled behind his high collar. She didn't act like it, but in her own way Ino was as much a genius as the others. He saw their group as a collective, almost a hive mind. Each member had specialties, and one of Ino's also made her one of the best landscapers in Konoha, despite her age, but she'd only do it if she wanted to, even her parents couldn't force her. His mother would love it, as would her bugs. It only took him a few seconds to mull it over. Even if his bugs wouldn't mind a little combat in her garden and being used for guard duty to keep it healthy, he didn't like being used like that. And looking at Ino, if I heard, she probably had this planned all along. But he admired her ability to multitask and manipulate into doing what she wanted, and even making them think it was their idea. Except Naruto, who she always submitted to when he pushed back. Deal. Ino smiled and nodded. Shino, I apologize for everything I've said about you and your bugs in the last month. Ino said sincerely. That was too easy, but I shouldn't made the joke about an orange jacket. Just to be sure, I'll offer him one of my homemade blueberry muffins at lunch. If he takes it, I'm clear. Ino thought. How about we play during lunch, Shika, so we can get a couple games in? Naruto said. Yeah, I hate having to rush anyway, too much work. Shikamaru said casually. The three girls giggled and Naruto shook his head. Maybe I should have Hotaru make a basket harness and Choji can carry you around on his back. That way you don't even have to walk. Naruto said. How much would that cost? Shikamaru said. Everyone stared at Shikamaru a moment, stunned. They knew he was serious. 8 a.m., homeroom. I need new friends, Shikamaru said in an annoyed but lazy tone. Shut up, Shika, and I don't want to see you even nod, Choji. I don't care if you can do it. Ino said, annoyed, but quietly as she crossed the room. Shino just walked towards his seat as if nothing was going on. Inside he was laughing at the image of Choji backpacking Shikamaru around. Tenten and Hinata just leapt, glancing at each other, smirking like idiots. Naruto was ignoring Shikamaru, Choji and Ino completely. This was odd for them considering their parents. He was scanning the ROM since he entered. He saw a few other clan heirs, though he didn't know most of them. He knew who they were. He wasn't surprised to see Sasuke Uchiha sitting front row CWNTER, already surrounded by fangirls. He saw Sasuke glance at him and gave him a nod that Sasuke returned. He knew his only real rival would be Sasuke. The only other student that could give him a good fight was Hinata's cousin Neji, but he was a year ahead and he doubted they'd share any classes. He really liked Neji. Sure, others found him kinda stiff and cold, but since Hinata escaped from her would-be kidnapper 3 years ago thanks to his extra training, they'd become friends, thanks to Hinata. Lunch, courtyard. Naruto walked out into the grass-off-pay courtyard with his squad and stopped, looked to his right. Do you girls know anything about her? Naruto said and nodded to the girl sitting alone on the bench about 20 feet away. Not much, only that she lives with her mom, has no friends, isn't from any clan I know of. And that in all our classes so far she answered every question before you could even raise your hand, Naruto. Sometimes before sensei could even finish asking it. She has a big forehead she's obviously ashamed of based on her hairstyle and posture. The pink hair is cute. And she's probably smarter than everyone in class except sensei, you and Shikamaru. Ino said. Anyone have anything to add? Naruto asked. They all shook their head. Everyone agree with Ino's assessment? Naruto asked and they all nodded. Set up Uner the biggest shade tree, I'll join you in a minute. They nodded and headed for the tree. Tenten, Hinata and Ino were smiling. Where x plus y is equal to 13 to the fourth power divided by the square root of. She thought as she was reading, then stopped when a shadow fell over her. Excuse me, Nut, would you please move, you're blocking my light. She said politely but softly, not looking up. 24, he said. She looked up, confused, and quietly gasped. Relax, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm Naruto Namikaze and the answer to that problem is 24. Naruto said calmly. I know who you are, I've heard the other girls talking about you. Sakura Haruno, how do you know the answer? Sakura said. Cherry Blossom, it suits you. If you'll join me and my friends for lunch I'll tell you. Naruto said. Why would someone like you want to eat lunch with a nobody like me? Sakura said meekly, then flinched in fear when she heard a very low, powerful feral growl. Don't you ever say that again. Someone as smart as you are shouldn't care what people think. Most of those bimbos bullying you now won't advance past Genin, they even manage to graduate. They'll live meaningless lives. You have the potential to be an elite kunoichi. Now, are you going to get your head out of your ass and show those bitches what intelligence, hard work and talent can do? Or listen to their bullshit for 6 years, convince yourself they're right about you and amount to nothing? Naruto said in a low, powerful voice. If you want some real friends that can pooch you past your limits as a person in a kunoichi, we'll be under the big shade tree every day during lunch. Join us when you're ready to stop being a weak little. Naruto said strongly, turned and walked away. Sakura sat there a moment in shock as her big green eyes teared up. As he walked away from Sakura, all his senses were tuned to her reactions, outside and inside. His mother, Tsunade and the other elite shinobi could hide their true emotions and selves from him, but he could read Sakura's true feelings like an open book. Short of hearing her thoughts, he knew more about Sakura than she did about herself. It didn't last though, he could only read her that well up close, and even this ability he could only use a short time. Any longer or stronger and the small changes would happen. And even his friends only knew 2 of his special, as he'd been told repeatedly by his mother. As a clan heir with a bloodline limit, you don't share all your secrets with outsiders. They did the same thing, all clans had secrets. So how'd it go, other than making her cry? Ino asked. Naruto sat in the spot they saved for him and picked up his lunch he knew one of the girls had set out for him. Pretty good actually, she had some problems, but I think I reached her. She'll join us tomorrow. You were too hard on her, were you, Haruto-kun? Hinata asked, then took a bite of her cinnamon bun. Don't worry Hinata-chan, I just gave her a little push to motivate her. Naruto said. Would you like a blueberry muffin, Naruto? Ino asked and held it out. Sure, thanks Ino. Naruto said, took the muffin and gave Ino a small nod that made her smile, and he knew why. Naruto. Age 6. I'll be there in a minute, start without me. Naruto said, handed his lunch to Tenten to hold for him, and walked over to Sakura while his friends went to the big tree to sit down. Sakura stood from her bench as he got close, clutching her books and lunch bag to her chest. What's your decision? Sakura looked at him. She was a little intimidated and knew he could tell. For some reason she felt like an open book to him, her every secret exposed. It really creeped her out how he did that to her, but she'd made up her mind because she also knew he could help her. After a 3-hour cry last night. I want to be strong and not afraid all the time. Please help me, Naruto-san. Naruto glanced around, then put his hands on her shoulders. Look at me, Sakura, Naruto said, then waited a moment for her to look directly at him. The moment she did, his eyes turned red as he activated what he'd named his blood gaze, because of what it did. As he entered her mind, he saw the same things Ino and her parents would using their jutsu, but where his power differed was that he didn't stop there. With his mother and or Tsunade always there with him, he'd practiced on willing members of the Namikaze staff. He went right to a certain room in her mindscape, just as he'd practiced, and found what he called the 3 books, the mind book, the body book and the soul book. Everyone had them, but he only checked the body book. It was an index of that person and everything they could do, whether they knew it or not. He'd promised his mother he'd only read this book and never go past a certain point or look at certain areas without permission and with either her, Tsunade or Jiraiya present. Let's see, Naruto thought as he thumbed through her body book. Interesting, I expected her to have good chakra control, but she has near perfect control. Okay, that's interesting. What's this? There's something special about her mind. I wish I had time to explore her mind, she has a lot of potential. I can't stay any longer. Naruto thought, and as he was leaving her mind he removed all traces he was there, including the memory of her seeing his eyes change color. Real world, 1 second later. Naruto smiled at Sakura as she blinked and her expression subtly returned to normal. He looked into her green eyes with his cerulean blue eyes and smiled. Of course I'll help you, and just call me Naruto. Come on, join me and my friends for lunch under the tree before our food gets cold. Sakura smiled. Thank you Naruto, will they like me? Of course, I'll introduce you. If you're lucky, Ino will take you shopping and give you a makeover, she's a diva. Naruto said and smirked. Sakura smiled. She was nervous, but something about him was very attractive, and not just his looks. September 13th, 5th period, Academy Training Ground 2. This had quickly become his favorite class, not to learn the standard taijutsu style they taught. He was well beyond that. It was the chance to spar again his fellow clan heir, rival and to a small extent, his friend, but that was developing. He smiled confidently getting into the fighting stance his mother and Tsunade taught him. He blended the two styles to fit his needs. Care to try again Sasuke? Sasuke grinned. He hadn't come here to make friends, but he couldn't deny he was starting to like Naruto. He was the only person that pushed him. He had been comparing himself to his older brother Itachi, and in the first week Naruto had broken almost all of Itachi's records, and what really annoyed and excited him was that Naruto was actually holding back. He doubted the others had noticed it, but he had. It took everything he had just to make Naruto work for his wins. He'd made that mistake day 2 when they first sparred. Naruto put him down in 3 seconds without even trying, and did it over and over the rest of the class. Like everyone else did, he knew Naruto was the new standard by which every other student measured themselves in every area. Sure, he'd given Naruto a bloody nose and several bloody lips in the last 2 weeks, but it wasn't enough. He wanted to beat him, and every day he got a little closer to that goal. You know I do Naruto. Sasuke said, then charged in for another exchange. The rest of the standing in a circle around the area Naruto and Sasuke were sparring in. Mizuki had quickly learned that when those two sparred no one else would. So any day they were matched up, they were always last. The others sparred the first half of class, then everyone would watch them. They'd even become part of his lesson plan on days they didn't spar. He'd ask the rest of the students about their match from the day before. He didn't like Naruto, but making any move against him was suicide. It had been relayed to him that Kushina had told Sarutobi flat out that she'd kill anyone that tried to hurt Naruto and hang their head from the front gate of the Namikaze estate as a warning. Then there was his godparents, 2 of the legendary Sannin. If you were very lucky Kushina would catch you before they did. September 29th, Aburame Compound. What do you think Yukemi-san? Ino asked, a big smile on her face as she watched Shino's mother walking through the newly landscaped garden she'd just finished about 5 minutes ago. Yukemi walked through it in awe. She was a retired elite Junin, had been an Aburame since she was 18 and married Shibi, head of the clan, and she could barely suppress her emotions. She finished, walked up to Ino and leaned in close, next to her ear opposite the small crowd of friends. I don't know why you did this for me Ino, but I'm in your debt. If you ever need anything from me, just ask. Yukemi said in her normal soft, melodious voice, but so only Ino heard her. She stood and smiled behind the high collar of her coat. It was my pleasure Yukemi-san. Ino said, then turned to her friends. What are you waiting for? Go check it out. Do I have to do everything? Naruto, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, Tenten and Sakura laughed. Shino smiled behind his high collar, no one saw it. October 10th, 1:32 p.m., Namikaze Mansion. Naruto. Age 7. Naruto looked out at the crowd of his friends and one or both of their parents and smiled, then looked at his mom when she coughed. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and for all the great gifts. Which I'll do individually before mom embarrasses me. Naruto said. Everyone laughed, except Kushina who playfully glared at her son. Starting at his far left Naruto thanked Hinata and Neji for the books, Tenten and her parents for the custom weapons, including a wakizashi that matched his katana, Ino and her parents for a seedling of a tree that would grow up with him, a soul tree as she called it. Next he thanked Sakura and her mother for a hand-painted ceramic bowl, Shikamaru and his parents for a custom traveling shogi set similar to his. Engraved on top of the small case were 4 words, troublesome but worth it. He thanked Choji and his dad for the permanent reserved table at their family restaurant for Naruto and his family. He thanked Shino and his mother for the special beetle. They'd tell him what it did later. Thanked Kiba and his mother for the Inuzuka clan's special coat. It was impervious to cold and would always fit him. He thanked Sasuke, Itachi and their mother for the scroll of fire jutsus, which of course came with a challenge from Sasuke to learn them all so he'd have someone to train with. Then thanked his newest friend from the academy, Rock Lee, and his new sensei Mike Guy, for the book on taijutsu of every elemental nation. It was from Guy's personal library and a one-of-a-kind in that Guy had gathered the information personally and had essentially written the book himself. His final guests, Anko, Kurenai, Kakashi, Iruka, and of course Tsunade, Shizune and Jiraiya. He thanked them as a group. Then last but not least he thanked his mom. They all got him jutsu scrolls to study. October 24th, 11:02 a.m., The Sweet Tooth. You can't be 18, civilian kids half my age don't act like you. How you ever made special Junin is beyond me, but it is your birthday so I'll forget that we're in public. Naruto said with a subtle, amused smirk. You need to learn to relax and have fun. I had more fun than you do when I was 7, and you know what my childhood was like. Anko said. I don't huh? I'll make you a deal Anko. I'll do better than treat you. I'll buy you all the dango you can eat and treat you to Konomi's for ice cream afterwards. But in exchange you can't threaten anyone and you have to act like a real kunoichi until Hinata-chan's birthday party, if you can do it. I'll not only dance with you anytime you want, but you can pick the songs. Naruto said seriously and held out his hand. That's over 2 months away. Anko whined then smiled. But to get your tight ass on the dance floor bumping and grinding, not to mention all the dango I can eat, you have a deal. You know where to kick a bitch to really make it hurt, but I love ya for it. Anko said and shook his hand. Okay Kenji-san, give her anything she wants, I'm paying. Naruto said to the store owner. He knew Anko was about to make his wallet gamashin very thin. November 11th, Namikaze Mansion, Training Area 3. She whipped her right leg out in a spinning roundhouse kick after she turned her head to see her target, and to her surprise she missed, then saw a flash of pink and everything went black. Tenten and Hinata's jaws dropped as Ino went flying out of the training circle. A good 10 feet out of it, and standing in the center, still in the uppercut position she just landed, as shocked as her audience. I hit her, Sakura said blankly. Naruto smiled and glanced at Tsunade who moved toward Ino. Congratulations Sakura-chan, you did it. Tsunade's training has really paid off. Is Ino alright Ba-chan? Naruto said. Tsunade's hand stopped glowing green as she pulled it away from Ino's face. She's fine. Ino blinked a few times then reached up and checked her jaw. She knocked me out didn't she? Laid you out like a sushi plate. Look where you are. Tsunade said quietly. Ino did, and whistled. Wow. And it only took her 2 months. First time Sakura hit me and she dropped me like dirty underwear. Ino said a little embarrassed, then smiled. That was just from my physical training. Be glad I haven't taught her my strength technique. Tsunade said with a smile. Promise me you'll give me at least 2 years before you do, or I'll tell Jiraiya you have every one of his books. Ino said with a devious smirk. That's a lie and you know it Ino. Tsunade said, glaring at her. True, but he doesn't know that. Ino said calmly. Tsunade growled. Get permission from your mother, Sarutobi, and let me start December 1st. And I'll teach it to you and Sakura along with medical jutsu. Ino's eyes got bigger a moment, then she smiled. Seriously, you'd really do that? Tsunade nodded. You know I've watched you since you and Naruto-kun were little. You have excellent chakra control and a sharp mind. Your control isn't quite as good as Sakura but you're close enough that I can fix that. With no promises that they'll both say yes, do you agree? Hi, Ino said, then took Tsunade's hand and stood up. December 27th, 1:56 p.m., Hyuga Compound. Hinata bowed to her father, then smiled at her 2-year-old sister Hanabi standing next to him. Thank you father. Hiyashi gave her a small nod. You're welcome, dismissed. He said then watched her head over to her friends. He didn't show it in front of everyone, but he was very proud of her for how strong she was as a person, a Hyuga princess and a kunoichi. 2:01 p.m., Hyuga Great Hall. He looked around the room, he saw the other 11 members of the Rookie 12 Feet as they were called, 6 Cadet Branch Hyuga girls. Hikume Hyuga who was chaperoning for the Hyuga. Then there were the other chaperones. Mike Guy, Tsunade. And of course the person he'd been dreading all morning, Anko. She'd won her bet and was grinning deviously at him. Happy birthday Hinata-chan. I'll be back in a minute for your birthday first dance as promised. This is going to be a long day. Naruto said, then walked across the room to Anko. Dun, dun, dun dun, dun, dun dun, dun 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 dun. The other boys said together, smirking. Naruto shook his head annoyed, but didn't react otherwise. Before you say anything Anko, I promised Hinata the first dance, then I'm yours. But remember that this is Hinata's birthday party, not one of your parties, and we aren't genin yet, so keep it clean. Right Ba-chan? He's right Anko, that's why Kushina sent me along, to keep you in check. I smell any sake or see anything I'm not supposed to at the birthday party of a 7-year-old Hyuga princess, and you be dealing with me, Kushina and Hiyashi, understood? Tsunade said firmly and poked Anko's chest between her full S covered only by the armored mesh shirt. So no strippers? Anko asked seriously, then giggled and held up her hands in surrender. I was kidding, I get it. I'll keep it clean. By adult standards, but there's still plenty I can do to him that's embarrassing and age-appropriate. It better be. Sorry Naruto, that's the best I can do, just try to go with it. Tsunade said. Naruto nodded, then looked at Anko, his face emotionless. I don't care what you do to me, but if you embarrass Hinata-chan at her own party I'll tell the whole damn village your little secret. Naruto said coldly. Anko paled slightly and nodded. Tsunade glacked at Anko curiously. I wonder what he knows about Anko that would scare her like that if it was revealed. Tsunade thought. She desperately wanted to ask, but knew it would be a waste of time, and besides, she knew how Anko had to feel. Naruto had her by the short hairs too. Naruto was saving it to exchange for a huge favor one day. He probably had a similar deal with Anko. She'd trained him to be ruthless and exploit an opponent's weakness. She was impressed, proud and scared at the same time at how good he was and glad he also thought of her as family. If he didn't, she was screwed. She pitied anyone that made him angry, especially after he graduated in 5 years. February 10, 5:12 a.m., Namikaze Estate, Training Area 1. Ready, Naruto said, his katana in both hands, wakizashi attached to the handle and making the weapon double-bladed, one at each end. A moment later 30 kunai flew at him from 3 different directions, 10 each. Moving at blinding speed he spun, twisted and pivoted in a blur of motion that only his and the eyes of his attackers could follow. Deflected everyone, then glanced around and counted them before dropping to his right knee, breathing hard, head down. Congratulations kid, the first man said. Thanks Jiraiya, Naruto said. That was impressive, even for you. The woman said. Thanks Ba-chan, Naruto said. Not bad, when you can deflect 40 I'll be impressed. The second man said calmly. Naruto looked up and chuckled through a fanged smile, his eyes red on black. Please, no more compliments Itachi, I'll get a swelled head. Naruto said dryly, then stood. Itachi smiled. Kushina's right, you're a smart ass. Thank you, I do what I can. I just wish mom could have been here to see me pass. Naruto said. She's a clan head, that means she has to attend certain meetings, but she'll be proud of you for advancing to level 3. Tsunade said proudly. Naruto separated his weapons and put them away, katana on his back, wakizashi at his waist. Do you know what it's about? They usually don't have meetings this early in the month. Sorry, but if it was important me and Tsunade would be there too. Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and relaxed, his features returned to normal. If we're done I'll go get a shower. You staying for dinner Itachi-sensei? Can't, promised mom I'd help her with something before dinner, and I have to go over some police reports with dad. Itachi said, nodded and vanished in a swirl of leaves. April 1st, 7:20 to 7:25 a.m., 10 rooms in Konoha. Note start. Good morning. As you've noticed by now, all your clothes are missing, I have them. If you want them back you must be in the clearing at the top of the Hokage monument by 7:30 a.m. sharp with this note. If my watch turns to 7:31 you'll find your bra and panties hanging from every pole and sign in Konoha by 7:32 a.m. and labeled as yours. P.S. No transformations, henges or borrowed clothes. Tell anyone or show up wearing anything and everyone sees your underwear, and have a nice day. Love Naruto. Note end. 7:30 a.m. Clearing, top of Hokage monument. She arrived with 5 seconds left. That's all of them: Tsunade, Kushina, Anko, Kurenai, Inoiki, Yoshino, Hana, Yukemi, Sume, and last but not least Makoto. Naruto thought, then stepped out into the clearing, and every woman there turned to him with a cold glare. If he was anyone else, he would have just dropped dead from the combined ki he was just hit with. He smiled warmly. Before anyone says or does anything, I have shadow clones in position all over Konoha. If they don't get a certain password from me in about 30 seconds, they hang everyone's things. I can make them wait with a different password. Will everyone listen? Naruto said. Kushina glanced at everyone. We'll listen, but this better be good. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto nodded and pressed the talk button on the comlink under his collar. White flag. Naruto said. I know I'm not the only one wondering. How'd you do it, Naruto? Hana asked calmly. She was embarrassed but knew trying to cover herself was a waste. Yeah, I'd like to know that too. What you pulled off here is incredible. I'm damn impressed. Sume said, standing hands on hips, feet shoulder width apart and not a hint of modesty. Before I tell you and give everyone their clothes back, I'd like everyone present to sign this scroll I prepared. It basically says that all of you acknowledge me as the greatest prankster in Konoha history. How's this for lightening up Anko? Naruto said and smiled at her. The other 9 women turned their glare on Anko, who got very nervous. Sorry, Anko squeaked out. I've been planning this since the day after Hinata-chan's birthday party. Naruto said, smiling proudly, then reached into his coat and pulled out a scroll. Sign your first and last name, then acknowledge me as the best prankster ever, and you'll get your clothes back. Everyone complies without any tricks, and you have my solemn promise as a Namikaze I won't tell anyone this happened. Naruto said seriously. Deal, toss it over. Kushina said. Naruto tossed his mom the scroll with an attached pen. I, Kushina Namikaze, acknowledge Naruto Namikaze as the greatest prankster ever. Kushina said, signed the scroll, then handed it to Tsunade. As so it went, each said it and signed the scroll. I, Tsunade Senju. I, Anko Mitarashi. I, Kurenai Uehi. I, Inoiki Yamanaka. I, Yoshino Nara. I, Hana Hyuga. I, Yukemi Aburami. I, Sume Inazuka. I, Makoto Uchiha. Once they'd all signed it and he got it back, Naruto told them how he used shadow clones to watch them every night for over 3 months to learn their patterns and habits, then used stealth and henges to slip in and out of their estates and bedrooms undetected, revealing the small holes in their security. Once he finished, he got his backpack and tossed each a scroll before putting it on. By the way, I was bluffing. There are no shadow clones waiting for orders, April Fool. Naruto said, then smiled, winked and vanished. Kushina started laughing, followed moments later by the others. May 1st, 7:04 p.m., Namikaze Estate. Naruto sat on the living room couch surrounded by the people he was closest to, his mother Kushina, Tsunade, Shizune, Jiraiya, and acting Hokage Sarutobi. The reason was almost too much to take in, even for him. Sighing, he looked at his mom. So Dad sealed Kyuubi inside me minutes after I was born, and that's the reason for the seal on my stomach and the red chakra. That explains a lot of things. Naruto said, basically calm. Do you hate him for doing that to you and leaving us? Kushina asked calmly, at least on the outside. Naruto sat for a minute, occasionally glancing at everyone around him. It was obvious they were worried about his reaction. As much as I wish he hadn't done it, I understand his reasons for doing it and using me. He was Hokage, and that means he's responsible for everyone in Konoha and he must protect them no matter the cost. Even his own life. No, I don't hate him. I still have you, Ba-chan, Shizune, Jiraiya and Sarutobi-sama. The people he was closest to, so I'm still connected to him through all of you. Naruto said, then looked around a moment and sighed. I want to talk to Kyuubi, now. Any objections? With all of us here, I have no objections. Just please be careful, Naruto-kun. Kushina said. You know me, Ka-san, I'm always careful. Naruto said with a smile, closed his eyes with a slow exhale, entered his mindscape as he had many, but he'd always stayed in the main hall, he called it. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto found himself in a darker, gothic version of the main his home. He'd explored many rooms, including the library, which he knew represented his memory. His 3 books were there, but they were divided up into hundreds of smaller books that filled the shelves, Most of them were locked and unlabeled. "Where are you?" Naruto called out. A red glow appeared in the far left hallway. Naruto crossed the room and went down the hall, which seemingly went on forever. He stopped at the ninth door on the right, which turned from dark brown to bright red when he got close. He opened it and found a staircase, which he followed down what he figured to be 6 flights of stairs into a sewer-like stone hallway. Running the length of the hall, as well as crossing in and out of the walls, were a series of pipes, 5 types. The biggest were 1 foot thick and black. At 10 inches thick were blue pipes. Running beside them were 8 inches thick red pipes. Circling and connecting the red and blue pipes were 6 inches thick purple pipes. Most unusual though, was connecting all the other pipes to each other were 1-inch thick crimson pipes like a web. He understood the others as representing his body functions, his chakra, Kyuubi's chakra, their fused chakra because of the seal, but the crimson pipes were a mystery. His best guess at the moment was they represented his bloodline limit. He followed the long hall about 100 yards, then around a left corner and another 100 yards where it opened into a huge room 50 feet across, 60 feet deep with a 60 feet ceiling, the highlight of which was the far wall, which was a massive cage going wall to wall and floor to ceiling, with double doors each 20 feet wide, but then seemed to only be held closed by a sheet of paper with the kanji for seal on it. He walked towards the cage figuring that's where Kyuubi was held. He was right. A pair of huge red eyes appeared in the darkness behind the bars. "I've been waiting for you, Naruto." A very powerful demonic voice said. "You must be Kyuubi, greatest of the tailed beasts." "I'm not impressed," Naruto said calmly. Kyuubi lurched up to the bars and roared, hitting Naruto with incredible wind and ki. "Shut up," Naruto roared louder, interrupting and silencing Kyuubi. "This is my mindscape, I rule here, not you," Naruto said fiercely, walked up to the cage and punched Kyuubi in the nose hard. "You attacked my home and cost my father his life to stop you by sealing you inside of me. You may be chaos incarnate out in the real world, but in here I own your furry ass and you will obey me or bury you so far in my mind you'll never see or hear anything again. Do you understand me, you fucking beast?" Naruto screamed as his rage exploded and he went full vampire, as his mind pictured his most terrifying form, fangs, piercing red on black eyes, long nails. His shirt and jacket turned into huge bat-like wings on his back, leaving him shirtless to show a hard, ripped, lean muscular body. His skin turned while and his whisker marks vanished. Kyuubi hit the floor in submission and began shrinking. At about the size of a horse, Kyuubi stood its back legs and took on a human shape. Naruto watched, his anger faded as Kyuubi shrank and changed, until finally stopping as a full human. Basically, the eyes were red with vertical slit pupils, of course the 4 feet long foxtail and bright red hair. Otherwise, Kyuubi had become an exact copy of Tsunade in a red GI instead of gray. "As I tried to say a minute ago, we really need to talk, Naruto-sama," Kyuubi said calmly. Naruto, age 7, sitting in the main hall with his mom, his godmother Tsunade, his sensei Itachi, and Aunt Anko. He listened to them chatting about some of their adventures over the years, as they did twice a month at these special dinners, even if a few of the others couldn't make it. He was enjoying the breeze blowing through the open windows. His super-sensitive nose let him enjoy the nuances of all the flowers in the front gardens, the cooking food from the nearby restaurants. The blood. Naruto suddenly leapt to his feet, his eyes shifted to red on black with vertical slit pupils. His vampire power had suddenly kicked on. Everyone suddenly went silent and looked at Naruto intently. They knew something was up. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Kushina said calmly. "I smell blood. A lot of it, and fresh, 30 minutes old at most," Naruto said, sniffing the air in multiple directions. Anko started fidgeting slightly, then grabbed the left side of her neck as the pain increased a little above normal. Tsunade turned, saw Anko grab the seal on her neck and tensed up. "Anko, tell me I'm wrong and he's not here. We're fucked," Anko said coldly. "Itachi, tell Hokage-sama Orochimaru's in the village and to send in everyone strong enough to help. We'll find him, then use the radio for the final strike. The rest of you meet me out front in 1 minute in full battle gear, move." Kushina said, then everyone but Anko vanished. "You don't get away this time, you twisted son of a bitch," Anko said, then bit her right thumb and smeared it on her snake tattoo. "Summon," Anko said. A large purple snake appeared, opened its mouth wide and the handle of a sword slid out. With a strong sigh Anko reached out, grabbed the handle, and with only a brief pause drew it from the snake's mouth and held it up in her left by the black sheath, then pulled it out. The 10 inches grip was black metal. The hilt was a 4 inches disc of the same black metal but had 4 large purple jewels in it at the 4 sides of the blade, which was 30 inches long, was finely serrated on both sides. The polished steel blade had a subtle purple tint to it, and a cobra was engraved on both sides of the blade near the hilt. I put everything I have into you, Venom Tongue. Tonight I'll have my revenge, or die trying. Anko said solemnly, sheathed it and slipped it on her back under her trenchcoat. The sheath bonded to her back by special seals on it. Only the handle showed behind her head. She dismissed her summon, then headed for the door, her face absolutely devoid of any emotion or humanity. 7:14 p.m. outside the Uchiha compound. They followed Naruto. It didn't take him long to track it here, but Kushina and Tsunade couldn't help but continually glance at the sword on Anko's back beneath her trenchcoat. Kushina especially was surprised as she didn't know Anko could use a sword. The whole time she'd know her, Anko had never used anything but kunai and shuriken. What really bothered her though, was she could feel something from within the blade. If she didn't know better she'd swear it was forged out of pure rage and some of Anko's soul. No matter what happened, she could see it in Anko's eyes. This was literally all or nothing for her. She promised herself 2 things just as they arrived. She was going to make sure her son and Anko survived, and she was going to train Anko in the Uzumaki style of Kenjutsu. It's coming from here. It sounds like a small group is slaughtering the entire clan from what I can hear. A few words are being repeated I can make out. They're looking for something. I think it's the Uchiha clan library. Naruto said. That's the most extensive jutsu library in Fire Country, maybe the world. The Uchiha clan has been gathering jutsu for generations. There are thousands of them that can only be found there, but only a few people know where it is from what I've heard. If I know my old teammate, that's what he's after. Bastard is obsessed with learning every jutsu in the world. Tsunade said. Anko nodded. Kushina pressed the talk button on her hidden radio. Uchiha compound, Orochimaru and a small unidentified group are after the Uchiha library. We're going in, surround the compound. No one leaves until this is settled. Kushina said seriously, then looked at her small group. As clan head, I'm in charge. I wouldn't do this with anyone else. Move it, she said, then nodded to Naruto. They left the outer wall and headed inside, following Naruto and Kushina, who were in full battle armor. Tsunade appeared to only be wearing her normal black pants and gray shirt, but beneath it was custom battle armor reinforced with seals by Jiraiya. As they moved through the halls, the 3 kunoichi had the same thoughts. They weren't stupid. As powerful as they were, Orochimaru was no ordinary opponent and potentially could kill them all, even 3-on-1. Naruto was their ace in the hole. If one of them went down, even Orochimaru couldn't stand up to Naruto's full power, not with everything he could do. 7:19 p.m. They found the closest room to the sounds and entered. It was Fugaku and Makoto's bedroom, but the back wall was blown out into the innermost courtyard in the Uchiha compound. They crossed the room and, looking out, most gasped quietly. Sasuke was laying in the grass, his head on his crying mother's lap. His face was bloody, his clothes ripped in several places, but he was alive. About 20 feet in front of them, Fugaku was fighting a tall, thin boy with white hair, who pulled a bone from his arm that looked like a sword. He dodged a fireball and with apparent ease decapitated Fugaku. Makoto screamed in horror. That wasn't the worst part. About 10 feet from them were 5 others, a red-haired girl holding a flute, a huge man with a mohawk, a silver-haired kid who seemed to have another person half inside him, a twin from what they could tell. Then there was the last kid, who had 6 arms. The final person was Orochimaru himself, who was obviously very amused by what the white-haired teen just did. Behind them, about 20 feet away, was a dozen or more groups of at least 40 women and children, all trapped in what looked like spider webs. Before Kushina could say anything and they were spotted, Tsunade stepped past them into the clearing and leapt up into the air. She landed about 8 feet in front of Makoto and Sasuke with the ground shaking THOOM, punching the ground and causing the white-haired teen to leap back or be swallowed by the sinkhole that suddenly opened under him, then closed a few moments later. The others rushed out and joined Tsunade. Sorry Kushina, lost my temper. Tsunade said quietly. Coo. Well, this is a pleasant surprise, my old teammate and my former apprentice, how nice to see you both again. Orochimaru said in a sweet, polite voice, smiling. Save it Habiteme, we know what you want and you won't get it. Tsunade said strongly. I see you're as stubborn as ever Tsunade-chan. You know you can't beat me, or resist me. Orochimaru said with a very sly smirk as he obviously looked at her chest. Tsunade clenched her fists so hard her knuckles cracked. I was a kid you sick, twisted, son of bitch. Even Jiraiya wouldn't have pulled that shit on me. Tsunade literally roared in rage and raised her right foot high. Don't do it Tsunade, Kushina said fiercely, knowing what would happen if she stomped her foot. Tsunade put her foot down. Kushina stepped forward. I'll only say this once, surrender, or die. Kushina said emotionlessly. And who might you be? Orochimaru said. Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Kushina said, knowing what would happen. Well, this is a pleasant gift, I will enjoy experimenting on you. Orochimaru said. You touch her and I'll kill you. Naruto yelled as he stepped forward, for once he couldn't hold back his emotions. An evil smile crossed Orochimaru's face. You could only be your son. He said, then saw his eyes turn from blue to red with vertical slit pupils. And a Jinchuriki as well. The 9 tails I believe. I simply must have you. Anko, Tsunade, we'll take care of the others, Naruto-kun. You get Orochimaru. Don't hold back. No matter what, I love you. Kushina said. Please, I have to. Anko said, holding back her emotions, but just barely. I'm sorry Anko, I can't let you do what I think you have planned. Be careful, and stay out of Naruto's way. Kushina interrupted. Don't you dare die on me Naruto. Break your promise to me and I'll drag you back myself. Anko said as she stepped close, leaned down and with no hesitation kissed Naruto on the lips, passionately, then stepped back and drew her sword. I am Anko Mitarashi, chaos is my mother, death is my father. Hell is my home, my venom tongue is the kiss of death. Hurt anyone I care for and you will die. Anko said in a dead voice, then blurred away at lightning speed. Naruto, Tsunade and Kushina were stunned. They'd never seen Anko move that fast, it was at least double what they thought was her maximum. Orochimaru was even a little stunned. We'll discuss that kiss she gave you later Naruto-kun. Kushina said, drew her red katana from her back, and raced at them with incredible speed and a bone-chilling shriek. Across from the Konohaku no Ichi and blonde boy, Tayuya paled and dropped her flute in terror as the scream triggered a very old, forgotten memory. The Red Death, Tayuya said blankly, ignoring the incredible sword fight Kimimaro was having with the purple-haired woman. She grabbed her flute and leapt back until she was surrounded by the hostages. Useless whore. Kill them, but the boy is mine. Orochimaru said as they were moving toward him. Who? The remaining Sound 5 thought. Tayuya obviously knew who the older redhead was. Tsunade. As they spread out, Tsunade headed for the biggest one first. Her experience told her he was most likely the biggest threat to them as a group, potentially even individually, depending on what he could do. Whatever his abilities, she had no intention of giving him a chance to use them by drawing out this fight. She hadn't survived the last Great War and more mass battles than even she could remember by giving her opponent a chance. She knew that rule 1 in a group battle was you kill the enemy as fast as possible and don't spend more time with a single opponent than you need to. Nearing her target, she focused most of her power into her right fist. She felt his chakra jump as black lines started covering his skin. She saw him move faster than expected for his size, but it wasn't enough. She sidestepped his punch and launched her fist at his face. Kushina. She swung her katana at him, but he blocked it with crossed kunai, one in each hand, and suddenly leapt back when an arm sprang from his chest and almost pierced her bare neck with a kunai. Kushina smirked and gave them a nod. He said something about his brother, but she ignored it, and changed to the starting stance of the third dance. She smiled at their reaction. She knows Kimamaro's 5 dances brother. Yukon said. So it seems brother. Sakin said. So that's his name. I might be impressed if he knew the rest. Kushina said. What? They said together. Just before she vanished in a blur of speed. Anko. Anko blocked his downward slash with the base of her blade where it was strongest, flipped it down to her left side, did a horizontal slash at his chest. Bone spikes popped out to block, But this time her blade cut through them and the point left a half-inch deep wound across his chest. Anko leapt back as she started laughing. "You're very good, but you can't beat me, this wound is meaningless. You will not reach Orochimaru-sama unless you kill me," Kimimaro said. "I just did. Didn't you hear me? I call my sword Venom Tongue for a reason. The blade is poisoned and there's no cure. I know because I created it myself. It'll kill even Orochimaru, you'll be dead in about 30 seconds. Anko said. Kimimaro looked down at his chest then flinched as searing pain suddenly burned through his chest, quickly spreading to his arms and down toward his legs. He activated his Stage 2 curse seal, and screamed in blinding agony as he fell to his knees. Nothing else happened. It destroys blood, organs, your nervous system, and chakra coils. Anko said coldly, then lunged forward and with a single swipe cut his head off. Anko wiped the blade off on his clothes, sheathed her blade to protect her friends from it, then picked up his bone sword as a trophy. Tayuya watched from what she prayed was a safe distance. First was Jirobo against the woman she knew was Tsunade of the Sannin. Of all her teammates he had the best chance against her. That's what she thought until Tsunade splattered his head with her first punch. Well, he never liked her cussing anyway, so she wouldn't miss him. Then she saw Sakin and Yukon face her oldest nightmare. She literally cut them both to pieces. Kidomaru fired an arrow at her back, she cut it in half with a spin slash faster than she could follow. Then took Kidomaru's head a moment later. A few moments later she saw Kimimaro go down from a single slash, and a moment later their team leader was suddenly about 10 inches shorter. She expected them to swarm her any second, but they didn't. Then she realized why. They were watching the blonde boy she thinks they called Naruto battling Orochimaru. And to her shock, holding his own using his sword, until Orochimaru's personal weapon, Grasscutter, broke Naruto's blade. That was no surprise, it could cut through anything, and if you were injured by it, the wound never healed. Tsunade, Kushina and Anko moved together, but kept a safe distance from Naruto. Moving back, Naruto tossed his broken katana aside. That was the only weapon his couldn't stand up to, and based on his battle so far, he knew he'd have to call on too much of Kyuubi's chakra to kill him. It would destroy most of the Uchiha compound, and likely more of Konoha, and that wasn't an option in his mind. That only left one option. He glanced back at his mom and gave her the "I'm going to use it" look. She nodded. Naruto slipped off his vest and without looking tossed it to his mom, then quickly pulled off his shirt. He had spares, he just hated wasting anything if he didn't have to. He saw Orochimaru looking at him curiously. "I didn't want to do this because I know you like to experiment on people, especially if they have a bloodline limit you can use. Like mine, but this time you met your match," Naruto said calmly. Orochimaru raised his eyebrows and smiled. He knew neither Kushina or Minata had a bloodline limit, so if Naruto wasn't bluffing he had one he'd never seen before, and that excited him. "I don't see how you could have a bloodline limit, but I'm curious as to what it does, so please show me." Naruto lowered his head a moment, and when he raised it his eyes were still red with vertical slit pupils. But the rest was black. His vision now shifted into the familiar slightly red-tinted, blood sight, as he called it, but this time he didn't hold anything back as he normally did, even when training with someone. "Is Naruto going to do what I think he is?" Anko whispered. Kushina sighed almost sadly. "Hi, I just hope he doesn't need to use Stage 2. Anko looked at Kushina in shock, she didn't know about that. Naruto screamed as he felt the incredible surge of power fill him. Even going straight to his three-tailed form with Kyuubi's chakra wasn't this intense. His fingernails extended into inch-long claws, his hair grew to shoulder length and lightened several shades which gave it a very lustrous, almost silvery shine. His upper canines lengthened into fangs, his muscles swelled slightly, giving him a harder, more ripped look. A crimson aura surrounded him for a few moments, almost like his red chakra cloak, then faded. Everyone still alive felt his power. Most of the Uchiha fainted, Anko flinched visibly, Tsunade and Kushina barely seemed to react. Tayuya wet her panties in terror, but at the same time became almost entranced by him. He terrified and excited her as no one ever had before, and she couldn't comprehend why she wasn't running or was still conscious. Orochimaru flinched, then smiled. "Most impressive, I've never encountered anyone like you. I must know what you can do," Orochimaru said. "I can kill you." Naruto said calmly, but filled with power. Orochimaru smiled evilly, swallowed grass cutter, then took his hubby-style fighting stance. He was taking this battle seriously, a very rare and exciting experience for him. Please, show me how strong you are. As she watched Naruto and her former sensei start a battle, even she could barely follow only half of, she half turned her head. What about the redhead? Didn't you see her reaction to Kushina? She's absolutely terrified of Kushina. She even knew her old nickname. Judging from her reaction, Kushina-chan, she's seen you in action up close, probably as a little kid. Wouldn't surprise me if you killed her parents and she saw you do it. Tsunade said quietly. I saw, we'll deal with her after this is over. Kushina said calmly, she knew that reaction by heart. She'd seen it more times than even she could remember and had no doubts she probably killed someone important to the girl, but she'd killed a lot of people in many countries before Whirlpool fell to Earth Country. Naruto landed a deep slash with his right across Orochimaru's face, just missing his eyes. Orochimaru leapt back with a scream, touched his face and saw blood on his hand. Most impressive. I don't know how you're able to cut me through my shed skin jutsu. But it will not happen again. Orochimaru said, genuinely impressed. Most attacks only cut his outer skin, which he'd simply shed to heal himself, but Naruto was somehow able to injure him, which meant he could kill him if he wasn't careful. Naruto smiled. Now I have your blood, and for me that's your death. Naruto said, hand at his side. He quickly but subtly used his thumb to wipe some of the blood from his hand to his pant leg and with a simple hand sign put a preservation seal on it for later examination. He licked the blood from his hand in a few quick swipes of his tongue. Your secrets are mine, Naruto said powerfully, then when Orochimaru looked at him he used his blood gaze to enter his mind. Kushina, Tsunade and Anko tensed up when they heard Naruto and saw both freeze. They knew what he was doing. But this was Orochimaru's mind, not something anyone wanted to see. They quickly realized something was going on when it lasted more than a second or two. In FCT it lasted 5. Then Naruto broke contact and stumbled back, suddenly breathing hard. Then they saw Orochimaru's face. He was scared, almost terrified, suddenly fell to his hands and knees, then quickly melted into the ground and was gone. Anko ran to Naruto and scanned the area intensely a moment before smiling. He's gone. I don't know what happened, but from his reaction we won't see him again for years. He won't come for Naruto until he's ready, which I'd say is at least 5 years. I agree, he knew Naruto was going to kill him, and he won't risk his life if he doesn't have to. Tsunade said, are you okay Naruto-kun? Kushina said as she reached Naruto, who seemed to be struggling to stay standing. Naruto shuddered, twisted. His mind is like a library in hell, and he's strong. I beat him, but he got away before I could finish him. So hungry, drained most of my chakra fighting him, in Mind Scout. As Kushina reached for her radio Tsunade grabbed her wrist. I'm sorry Kushina, but as Naruto's personal doctor I'm going to have to pull rank on you thin's time, so please don't argue with me, I'll explain everything later, I promise. Tsunade said, and after glaring at her, Kushina nodded. Before you call him in, get a blood sample from everyone. Except mine, he's useless to you if I'm even a little right about what you're thinking Tsunade. My sword is coated with the most powerful poison I could make, there won't even be a body in a few minutes. I created it to kill Orochimaru. This bone sword should be enough. Anko said calmly. We're all having a serious talk later Anko. Get samples from the others Kushina. Anko, get that girl and bring her here, unhurt. Tsunade said, waited for them to move away then stepped closer to Naruto, who looked up at her. I know you didn't want to do this Naruto-kun, but you've never used this much of that power before, even the one time your stage 2 power activated. Look at yourself, you can barely stand. I can see it on your face and in your eyes, you feel it don't it, it got stronger. Hi, I feel it, I can feel our connection stronger than ever. When this is over, no more secrets. Suni-chan, Naruto said quietly. Anko walked up a few moments later. Her name's Tayuya, she'll do anything we want if we keep Kushina away from her, and as you can see she has a thing for Naruto. I'll say this once, Tayuya. Unofficially you become Naruto's servant, officially you were a spy and betrayed him, do this and we'll protect you under clan law. Your other choice is we turn you over to the Anbu for interrogation, then you'll most likely be executed just for being associated with him, But if not, you'll never see sunlight or touch another person the rest of your life. If I'm right about your age, that's at least 50 years alone in a small dark room. I'm assuming your death is guaranteed if we turned you over to another country. Tsunade said, and Tayuya nodded. If I serve Naruto, she won't kill me? Tayuya said as she glanced at Kushina nervously. You have my word, do what we tell you, prove your loyalty, and you could become a leaf kunoichi or even a wife and mother someday. Betray us even once and I'll turn your ass over to Kushina. I believe you know her reputation, Tsunade said. Tayuya nodded hard right away. Hi, I do. Whatever I have to do has to be better than death or life alone in a cell. I accept your offer, Tayuya said nervously. Just as Kushina got back with a scroll in hand, Tsunade pushed Tayuya to Naruto. Diner time. Naruto. Naruto caught the taller girl by the shoulders. He was still in his vamp form. When he heard Tsunade's words, he pulled her down closer, opened his mouth wider than he normally would, sunk his fangs into her neck and drank deeply. Tayuya screamed in pain as he bit her neck and she felt her strength draining away, but didn't fight back because she hoped she was right and he wasn't going to kill her. She could feel him draining her, though she had no idea why, but if letting him drink her blood for food way she had to do, she could live with it. It was still better than what she had now. August 2nd, 7:45 p.m., Uchiha Compound. The Anbu had freed the remaining Uchiha, the bodies of the 3 remaining unknown nen, and whatever that mess that used to be another had been cleaned up. His elite Junin checked the area to be sure Orochimaru was gone and they hadn't missed anyone, living or dead, and standing before him were Kushina, Tsunade, Anko and Naruto with an unconscious red-haired girl slung over his shoulder, and he'd just been given a brief report on what happened. Sarutobi sighed. So she only joined Orochimaru to get to Konoha so she could betray him and tell us what she learned. Hi, Hokage-sama, that's my official report, Kushina said emotionlessly. As you're one of my elite Junin and a clan head, I'll place her in your care. She's your responsibility, Kushina, regardless of what happens from here on, and I expect a full report tomorrow, but for now you're all dismissed. Sarutobi said, glancing at Naruto. He gave him a subtle nod then watched them leave. This is why I retired, you're in charge, Sarutobi said then vanished. 8:10 p.m., Namikaze Estate, Main Hall. Tsunade to his right, Anko to his left. Naruto walked up to his mom, and without even looking he knew that glare had him and especially them very nervous. Hands down, no contest. The scariest person in Konoha was a pissed-off Kushina. And he could tell from across the huge room she was already boiling. As if that wasn't enough, while she was back in civilian clothes, she still had her katana on her back. Sit, Kushina said in a calm but powerful voice. Naruto immediately sat in the couch with Tsunade and Anko, who he could see looked like they were trying to suck in the chests. Kushina walked up to them, stopping in front of Naruto. While I'm very proud of you, Naruto-kun, you've been hiding things from me. If you ever do it again, I'll beat you until you stop moving, understood? Kushina said coldly and he nodded immediately. She raised her right hand to chest level. I can understand both of you having feeling for Naruto beyond that of family friend, and if when he graduates you wish to pursue an adult relationship with him, I won't stop you. However, if you wish to continue living here intact, you better not have done anything inappropriate with Naruto. I want the truth because I will not ask again, Kushina said solemnly and reached for the handle of her katana, her hand stopping a few inches from it. Kushina, you have my word on their souls. I haven't done anything inappropriate with Naruto. Beyond a single kiss like Anko did earlier. Tsunade said solemnly and sincerely. You have my word, Kushina. That kiss is the only thing I've ever done with Naruto. You know what he did to me when I was young? I'd never do that to Naruto. I was waiting for him to graduate, I swear on my life. The only reason I did it was because I thought I might die, and was prepared to do so if I could take that bastard with me to hell. I wanted at least one happy memory with Naruto to take with me. If you don't believe me, then please take my head right now. If I can't be with Naruto as a woman when he's a man, I don't want to live, Anko said sincerely. Kushina was looking into their eyes with everything she had during both confessions. I believe you both, Kushina said and lowered her hand. I know Naruto has seen you both nude at least once, and me, I can live with that as long as looking is all that happens. At least for now. I know we all want to talk to Anko about what happened, and about that sword, so you first, Tsunade, spill it, Tell me everything. Naruto, we'll discuss this fully, as a family, when everything has settled down. Tsunade took a deep breath then sighed. Kushina, you know Naruto and I have this special connection, we have since the day he was born. I know why now, and it was my idea to keep it a secret, but we were going to tell you. You remember what happened when Naruto went to what we call his stage 2 form. Tsunade said, then grabbed the left side of her gray top and pulled it aside to show her upper. A moment later a pentagram seal appeared. It faded and she released her top. I had a strange dream that night and found that the next morning. It only appears when I want it to. I'm sorry if this bothers you, but while Anko has a choice to be with Naruto or not. I never have. Remember right after he was born I cut my finger. A drop of my blood went in his mouth. I think that in Kyuubi was the primary trigger that activated his vampire ability. That's why he draws on my strength when he touches me. It got stronger that day, and again when he bit Tayuya. I researched it, this isn't the correct term, but I'm Naruto's thrall, like his personal servant. He couldn't do it until after he went to stage 2, but basically Naruto can command me to do anything and I'll do it. But at the same time I want to serve and protect him. I'm like his vampire mother, but I think wife is probably a better term. I give him strength, I can even feel where he is, but that just started recently too, and I have to want to find him. I've told all this to Naruto and he promised he wouldn't abuse this ability, but there's something I haven't even told him. I'm not using my body modification technique, I'm really 30 years old again and I'm pretty sure my aging has slowed dramatically, maybe even stopped. Tsunade said, the last part nervously. Anko and even Naruto stared at Tsunade in shock. Naruto, it was just for the last part. Kushina was totally blown away. Kushina shuffled to the nearest chair and flopped down in it, staring at her best friend and son like she'd just met them. Until I'm ready, this conversation didn't happen, dismissed. Kushina said blankly. Anko carefully stood. I'd like to stay here in a guest room tonight, Kushina-san. Anko said, and a few moments later Kushina nodded. She returned it and ran from the room before Kushina changed her mind. Tsunade motioned for the door, then she and Naruto left for their rooms. 10:12 p.m. She'd barely even blinked in the last 2 hours, then let out a sigh of defeat. I can't deny it anymore. This vampire power he has grows stronger as he does. And if even half of the other legends are true, like it or not, I'm going to end up as either his slave or lover in about 5 years. If that's my fate, if I have a choice I'll take the better option. If he put that seal on Tsunade he'll have others, which means Tayuya will probably be the first. I better get to bed, tomorrow is gonna be a long day, at least Sarutobi cancelled classes. Kushina said quietly to herself. August 3rd, 8:02 a.m., guest room 2. As she woke she knew she was in a bed, and for a moment hoped it was hers back at sound, but it was too comfortable. She slowly opened her eyes and they immediately focused on her worst nightmare, the redhead standing over her from her left. She froze in terror. Make any sudden moves and you're a dead bitch. Kushina said emotionlessly. She won't try anything, mom. She learned her lesson last night, didn't you, Tayuya? Naruto said calmly. Tayuya slowly raised her head, doing her best to be as non-threatening as she could. She glanced around her, she was in a very nice bedroom. Yo, you're Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Death. Kushina smiled proudly. I am, you're in my home. My son Naruto is who bit you last night and drank your blood. Why is none of your business right now, and for the moment, your life is in his hands. I assume you also know about Tsunade as her former teammate was your master. You have the floor, Naruto-kun. We'll stay out of this until you need us. Kushina said, then she and Tsunade backed up several steps. I'll get right to the point. I have certain special abilities. Some of them you experienced last you agreed to serve me last night. You were under a lot of pressure, so I want you to take a minute to focus and relax yourself. I don't want you making a snap decision just to save your life. Naruto said calmly. Tayuya nodded, then after checking to see if she was still dressed she carefully removed the blankets covering her, checking first, got off the bed and did about 2 minutes of stretching to relax. She wanted her flute to play to relax her, but knew that wasn't going to happen. Though a little nervous, this room was the last thing she'd ever see. She felt she was relaxed and sat on the side of the bed. I'm ready now, Naruto-sama. Tayuya said politely, struggling against her natural tendency to swear and speak her mind. All three of them were way out of her league, even one-on-one. Last night while you were passed out, before we came home we were given full authority of you. We can make you part of the family, a slave, or simply kill you. The only rights you have are those we give you. Before I make you my offer, do you have a problem with this? If you do, just say the word and you'll have a quick painless death. You have my word on that, Tayuya. Naruto said. Understood, I've lived with those rules my entire life. If I'm free of Orochimaru, I accept any rules you give me. I don't mean to cause any problems, but the curse seal on my neck binds me to him. He can find me any time he wants, and could probably kill me. I don't doubt for a moment he put a failsafe within the seal to guarantee our loyalty. Tayuya said sincerely. Sounds like something that bastard would do. He always was a control freak. If he did, I'm rather surprised you're still alive. Tsunade said with a hint of anger in her voice. I was in his mind during our battle, that's why he left. There is a failsafe in your seal that will kill you instantly. I wrote down everything I learned from his mind last night. He has to be able to see you to use it, or a spy of his does. I notified Hokage-sama this morning of who it is. While I could do the same to you, I haven't yet. Here's my offer, and this is one time only, so think carefully before saying anything. Part of my power is the ability to place a seal on someone and by sharing a small portion of my power with them bind that person to me. In the case of women that means as a slave or as a mate, though I won't do that until I'm a little older. I understand everything that implies. I can kill Orochimaru, but as you saw he was strong enough to escape before I could. While I don't need it to live, I can increase my power by drinking blood. I won't tell you what other benefits this gives me, but to kill him I must get stronger. Now, you can let me mark you and become my servant and live here in comfort. You may even earn our trust and become friends. Someday I may even take you as a lover. But regardless, I will be feeding on you at least once a week. Maybe more once I know how strong you are and how soon you recover. It won't be as much as I took last night, which is why you passed out, but from what I know from Tsunade I could feed off you every 3 days at least, and it will hurt. You will be a servant to everyone living here, but as I said, you'll be treated well as long as you're loyal and do as told. Can you live with this, Tayuya? Naruto said. Can I think about it for a while, alone? Tayuya said politely. Hi, will 30 minutes be enough time? Naruto said and Tayuya nodded. We'll be back then for your answer. You understand what your other choice is? Tayuya nodded. Hi, death by her, or interrogation by your Anbu and execution for assisting in killing the Uchiha. Naruto nodded and led his mom and Tsunade out, locking her door behind them. 8:36 a.m., Man Hall. Thank you for forgiving me and agreeing to train me, Kushina. Once this is taken care of you can test my Kenjutsu skill. I know you're getting sick of hearing it, but I'm sorry I kept all that from you, especially my feelings for Naruto, but after the prank, I started feeling different about him. He impressed me as much as the others. Anyone that can slip into my place and steal all my clothes undetected, and leave me humbled like that. I can't help myself but fall for him. Oh, thanks for not cutting anything off, and I will keep my promise not to do anything until he graduates. Anko said sincerely. Time's up, let's go see what she decided. Naruto said and stood. I'll wait here, Anko said. Naruto led the way to the room where Tayuya was, which was just on the far side of the main hall from them. He went in and over to Tayuya, who was sitting on the side of the bed just like she was when they left. What's your decision? I won't try to bullshit you with some sob story. I was a cold-hearted bitch years before you found me. And now that I've taken a long look at myself, I should have been killed with the others. And honestly, even being near you scares the living hell out of me. For whatever reason you spared me, even if I spend the rest of my life as some mindless slave or even as your whore. If it'll earn me even the smallest bit of redemption before I'm sent to hell. I accept, Tayuya said solemnly, got off the bed onto her knees and bowed her head in submission. Silencing him with a hand, Kushina stepped up to Tayuya. Stand up, tell me your age, where you're from and who I took from you. Tayuya stood, but didn't look at her. My name is Tayuya. I don't remember my last name, I'm 13. I was a chunin in the Sound Village founded by Orochimaru in Rice Country. I grew up in Water Country. Don't know who my father was, I never saw him. I think my mother was a kunoichi, but I don't remember because I was 3 years old when I watched you cut her head off in front of me. Tayuya said, the last part sadly but coldly. I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never killed a mother in front of her child. Kushina said fiercely. Yes you have, it's the only thing about my life before age 6 that I remember clearly. That's why I freaked out when I heard you scream, because you did it just before you killed her. Tayuya said. Impossible, I checked. There was no one around. Kushina said strongly, but a spark of doubt was growing in her mind. I was in the trash can, she put me in with the garbage before you showed and told me to stay quiet. It was the last thing she ever said to me. Her last words to you were, even in death. Tayuya said. I'll break your spirit. Kushina interrupted as she paled. Toshiro Kirikana. That's why she didn't resist and was in civilian clothes. Kushina said blankly, then turned and walked out of the room. Naruto partially changed, his eyes became red on black, his fangs lengthened and his nails became claws. He stepped closer, ripped her shirt open, cut his right palm, then slapped his right hand over Tayuya's heart on her large, bare left for several seconds, causing her to scream. When he removed it moments later, she collapsed to the floor. She's marked. Put her on the bed and watch her. The seal on her neck will be gone in a few minutes. I'm going to talk to Mom. Naruto said to Tsunade, changed back to normal, then turned and headed for the door. Tsunade nodded and did as told. She was as stunned as they were by what she just heard. 11:01 a.m., main hall. Naruto to her right, Tsunade and Anko to her left. Kushina looked at Tayuya standing 10 feet away in front of the fireplace. The now vamp-marked girl had been showered and thoroughly cleaned by servants with only a few minor protests at first. She now had on the same black shoes the servants wore, all of them female. She wore black pants, a white, long-sleeved blouse under a buttoned-up black vest that accentuated her ample chest, and her red hair in a ponytail. She cleaned up nicely. Kushina let out a long sigh. Your mother was a mist kunoichi, a junin in fact. She killed many friends of mine as well as hundreds of other people, and for that I don't regret killing her. However, I had no idea she had a daughter, no one did. And I'm truly sorry you had to watch her die. Had I known you wouldn't have witnessed it, and I would have raised you myself under our clan laws, even if it meant enduring years of hatred from you until you were old enough to understand and accept me. I can't change the past and wouldn't even if I could. What I can do is give you this chance now. This goes against what I believe, but Naruto can make you forget that day, even wipe your past clean of bad memories and replace them with happy memories, but I will not force this on you. Do you want to remember? Kushina said. Tayuya looked at Naruto almost in shock he could do that, then closed her eyes and didn't do anything for a full minute as she ran everything through her mind. She finally decided and opened her eyes. As many years as that pain would go away, that someone would take away the nightmares I still have. I appreciate the offer, and I've even dreamed of avenging her, but you aren't the monster I built you up as in my mind when I was younger. Even if I don't like it, I understand why you killed her. I only knew her as my mom. She took care of me and protected me. I did far worse in the few years I've been WTH Orochimaru. I even enjoyed slaughtering parents and children in front of each other because they opposed him. I want to remember everything. I apologize for this, but as fucked up as I am, as much shit as I've been through before and after I became his slave, despite the power and position I had, I was little more than an expendable slave to him. I accept that's my role now, but at least here I have a chance to redeem myself, even if only a little. Or hope I will. It still beats serving that cold-blooded bastard. If it means saving even one life, I'll gladly die, Tayuya said calmly, then bowed her head. Given the chance, would you try to avenge your mother by killing me or someone I care about? Kushina said. Tayuya raised her head so Kushina and Naruto could clearly see her eyes. No, I know what happens to people that live only for revenge. I've seen it many times. I won't do that. I miss her, but I've heard what mist shinobi do to not just enemies, but they kill teammates, even friends if it will help them. If that's the path my mother walked, I will not follow it. As pathetic as it sounds, being part of the Sound Five was the closest thing I ever had to a real family, and I hope to someday earn that right here, but I honestly don't believe that will ever happen. If I can make even one friend, it'll be worth it. Kushina glanced back at Naruto, who gave her a subtle nod. As I said earlier, I won't promise anything, but do as you're told, earn our trust, and you could earn our friendship, even a place within the family, but that's entirely up to you. Naruto, a small demonstration please. Kushina said. Tayuya looked at Naruto just as a pain worse than anything she'd even felt ripped through her body like a bolt of lightning. She fell to her knees. I'm sorry, but that was a small demonstration of what Naruto can do to you now that you have his mark. If you even attempt to reveal anything you saw Naruto do last night or learn here, he'll know instantly and you'll get that for a full minute, but 10 times stronger. He could kill you with a thought, but I honestly hope he'll never have to do that again, as I believe you could someday be redeemed. Naruto believes in giving second chances. This is yours to Yuya. Makiru, Kushina said, then waited for the head of her staff to appear. This is Tayuya Kirikana. For now she's a new employee. Please show her around, teach her what she'll need to know. Then assign her a room upstairs in the servants' wing. She can start tomorrow morning. When you finish, she has the rest of the day off, but is not to leave the mansion, and is only allowed outside if one of us are there, and only in the back. Kushina said. Makiru nodded, went to Tayuya, helped her up and escorted her out of the room. She didn't deserve that, even as a demonstration. You know almost as well as I do she won't betray me. Her entire life has been taken from her twice. I will not allow that to happen again. I'm going to talk to KY about some things. I'll be down for lunch. Naruto said, then turned and walked toward the stairs. He'll cool down. You know how he is, Kushina-chan. He's not mad at you. I hate to bring this up now, but since his stage 1 power has fully awakened and stage 2 has started, you know what this means. Tsunade said. Hi. It should have been a few years away, but that got moved up because of yesterday. As a woman I wouldn't mind, but going from being his mother to being his bitch isn't something I'm looking forward to when he matures. I just hope some of that information we found wasn't right. Kushina said. Naruto. Age 7. It had been 2 months since he marked her as his, and while on the most basic level she knew she was just a slave, but as she settled into a routine, Tayuya had to admit that her life had never been better. As much as it bothered her at first, in the last 2 weeks she'd started to really enjoy getting bitten every morning. Sure, it hurt, but he didn't take much, and as strange as it sounded, she took pride in the fact that he only drank her blood. A mental link had formed between them. While it was only from his side as her master, she'd been allowed into his minscape twice, and even had a room in the mansion in his mind, which she knew she couldn't really enjoy until she earned the right to share his power, even if only a small part. She knew at the earliest that was 5 years away, and while they didn't know, she knew the girls from the academy would be first. They were even starting to like her. She'd never had girlfriends before. She shook herself out of her thoughts as she watched him finish getting dressed after his morning shower. She went to her left knee and pulled down the left side of her collar, exposing her neck. The only sign of his regular bites were 2 small puncture scars she kept covered. Good morning, Naruto-san. Anko is joining you for breakfast this morning. She's waiting downstairs in the main hall. Naruto stopped in front of her. Thank you, Tayuya. You smell different this morning, Naruto said and looked into her eyes a moment, which he hadn't done in almost 2 weeks when she was tested last. He gave her a big smile, something he normally didn't do, then bit her neck and drank a small amount. His eyes changed to red on black as usual. She tried to hide it, but he heard her subtle moans of pleasure and could tell she was fully submitting to him. September 10, 4:34 p.m., Namikaze Estate, Training Ground 2. Naruto. Age 10. Kushina stood outside the ring watching Naruto and Anko having a full contact spar with wooden swords. Naruto was using the Uzumaki style, Anko her almost completed snake style. Neither was using any specific techniques, only the basic style. She had to admit it, Anko had come a long way in the last 3 years, especially since she moved in 2 years ago. She'd been against it at first because Anko was a hardcore party girl, and though a good person generally, Anko spread her legs a little too easily in her opinion. But for once she was glad to be proven wrong, as Anko had not only stopped sleeping around, but cut down on her sake. Anko wanted to prove to the few people that mattered to her that she was worthy of Naruto. She still wore the same outfit though, trenchcoat, mesh shirt, skirt and shin guards, but she carried a sword now, just like she had 3 years ago, but it wasn't Venom Tongue, as she was basically forbidden from using it, as a general rule. 10 more minutes then all. Kushina said. I did it, she yelled. Whop. Ah, my tits. Anko said, wincing and wrapping her left arm around her chest where Naruto's sword had hit her. She turned and looked at Tsunade barreling across the yard toward them. You okay, Anko? Naruto said. I'll be fine. I lost my focus for a moment. I deserved to get stunned like that. You got both S2, stings like a bitch. Anko said. I told you that you should wear the armor. Naruto said with a smirk. Unlike other women, Anko was more sensitive when she wasn't aroused, which was actually why she liked it rough. Naruto and Anko now next to her, Kushina turned to Tsunade. "What did you do? You know I don't like their training to be interrupted." Tsunade was still smiling. "I solved the problem, Naruto can do it now," Tsunade said proudly. "No side effects?" Naruto said, almost noticeably excited. "You're sure, Tsunade?" Kushina said, holding back her emotions. "Hi, once I show you what I did and how, with just a little practice, Naruto, your vampire power should let you sample, store and duplicate the abilities of others, however." Tsunade said. "However? What's the catch, Tsunade?" Kushina said. Tsunade sighed. "You already know about the enhancements he gets in his stage 2 form. According to my tests and previous research on his vampire power and how it works, while he can sample someone's power with a bite and the temporary effect it has, you can transfer abilities or a bloodline limit from one person to another, like Kimamero's ability to control his bone growth. Naruto could give that ability to Tayuya, for example. It only works with his vampire blood." "What do you mean?" Naruto said. "Basically, and we'd have to do a test to confirm it, Naruto has to be in his stage 2 form, and to use the old terminology, he'd have to turn her." Tsunade said. "You mean make her a full vampire like him?" Kushina said. "Hi, she'd still be totally loyal to him as her, what was that term, as her sire. I'm pretty sure the old information is correct though, she'd have his ability to transform into a stage 2 vampire, claws, fangs, wings like he does, but she wouldn't have most of his other abilities. Only the basic stage 1 abilities, the mental abilities and enhanced senses. He'd make her a member of his clan, and she'd basically be his wife." Tsunade said. "Test it on me," Anko said, stepping out between Kushina and Tsunade. "If there's anyone in Konoha that can handle this, it's me. Please, you know you'll have to eventually, and no matter what I'm always Naruto's, and if needed, I want to be the only person to die. You can find out what happened with an autopsy. Please let me do this," Anko said, then dropped to one knee and bowed her head. Holding in her emotions, Kushina looked at Naruto and Tsunade. She hated to admit it, but Anko was right. They all knew eventually Naruto would mark at least one of his girls and turn her. She didn't have any of his abilities, but Tsunade was already on the path to becoming Naruto's mate, or at the very least personal servant. That much was unavoidable as their link was elite far too strong. Kushina sighed. "Tsunade, get Orochimaru's blood sample." 4:50 p.m. He stood there shirtless. Directly in front of him to his right was his mother, to his left Tsunade with a small vial in her hand. Standing 6 feet away, directly in front of him was the now topless Anko. He could tell she was excited and nervous, but she wasn't scared. Even after her confession 3 years ago, they still had a more brother-sister relationship, hanging around him and his friends, training together, pulling the occasional prank, but he knew it was only because of his age. Even if it wouldn't be UAL for another 2 years, this would take their relationship to a level even he'd never experienced, but based on what had happened with Tsunade in the last 3 years, he had an idea. "I'm ready," Naruto said, then accepted the vial from Tsunade. "Remember, Naruto, this isn't like feeding on Tayuya. You need to drain her to the point her body starts shutting down, which should be about half. While you put some of your power into her body, let it flow in. When she reaches the right level, you should be able to feel it, then let her bite your wrist and drink. Your healing should compensate for a minor blood loss, and she should release you when she's had enough. According to the little information I found, she'll need anywhere from a few moments to a few minutes for her body to adapt. Then she should be able to transform to a weaker version of your stage 2 form, which should be the only other form she has for now. That should be what happens. Whenever you're ready, Naruto," Tsunade said. Naruto took a few deep breaths as they backed away, then with a scream he unleashed his stage 2 vampire form. His hair lengthened past his shoulders and became a silvery blonde, his skin turned almost white, his whisker marks vanished, his eyes turned to red on black with vertical slit pupils, his upper canines and nails lengthened, his muscles swelled, giving him a more muscular and very defined look. Then he hunched forward, crossing his arms over his chest a few moments before huge bat-like wings erupted from his back and opened wide for a few moments before closing, and he stood proudly, giving off an aura of power. He turned his head to Tsunade, who immediately dropped to her left knee and bowed her head in total submission. Turning to his mother, he could tell it was having an effect on her. She was impressed, and as his nose told him, slightly aroused, but fighting it. He could feel them, he knew exactly how strong they were, and as always happened, the power rushing through him wanted him to take them as his and you ally conquer them. I'm your target, Naruto, remember? Make me yours and share Orochimaru's power with me. Anko said. Oh yes, Anko-chan. My snake whore, you will be the first of many, but you're not my equal. Naruto said powerfully, drank the blood in the vial and tossed it to Tsunade. Then was suddenly in front of Anko. With a handful of hair pulled her lower and tilted her head to the side, leaned in and sunk his fangs into her neck. Anko screamed, half pain half pleasure. It was the most intense experience of her life. As Naruto drank her rich blood, he shared some of his power with her, and for the moment, Anko shared her entire life with him. He could feel her weakening as her life was drained, then felt it, released his bite. He held her up and moved his left wrist near her mouth. Drink, and become my snake whore, Naruto said. Anko wobbled briefly, eyes closed, then opened them suddenly. They were red on black with vertical slit pupils. Grabbing his hand and forearm, Anko opened her mouth, revealing her new fangs, and sunk them into his wrist and drank deeply. That's it, my whore, feel my power fill you, and that of your former master as I share his power with you. You're mine, now and forever. Show me your new power. Naruto commanded. Then Anko released her bite and backed up several steps. Kushina watched, actually awed, and even a little scared by what she just watched, then watched Anko almost stagger back a few steps. Anko seemed to be doing an almost writhing stretch for a minute, then threw her head back and screamed. Even for her, Kushina watched fascinated by the scene. Her son's vampire power was a totally new area for everyone, even him. She's seen almost every bloodline out there, from the Sharingan to ice users, but has had them all beat for strangeness. There didn't seem to be a limit to what he could do. As he got stronger, new abilities had always emerged. What was happening to Anko was just as fascinating. Her muscles swelled for a moment, then her skin paled, but not as much as Naruto's did, and seemed to shrink around her muscles, giving Anko more definition. And she'd swear Anko looked like she had millions of tiny scales covering her, but it was almost unnoticeable. It was so subtle. Her nails lengthened, her hair got a few shades darker and hung to her waist, and most shocking so far, her S swelled up to F cups, she figured, and became really full and firm. Then one of the traits she'd expected, large bat-like wings, sprouted from Anko's back and gently waved a few moments before folding up. The 5 feet snake tail that sprouted from the base of Anko's spine just about her skirt was a surprise to everyone. Anko took several deep breaths to relax and refocus herself, then smiled, opened her mouth. Her tongue shot out and licked Naruto from his waist up to his left cheek and retracted it. Anko looked down, cupped her new S and smiled literally ear to ear. Bigger tits, and firm too. Now that's what I call a bonus. Damn, I feel good, powerful too. So that's how he did that. Kushina, Tsunade, Naruto-sama, it worked. I have his abilities and I guess that my chakra has probably doubled. What the, a tail, cool. Anko said excitedly. Kushina walked up to Anko, as did Tsunade, and ran her hand over Anko's shoulder as she looked closer. Tsunade, do you see what I do? Tsunade nodded. Tiny scales, Tsunade said, then flashed through some hand signs and used a diagnostic jutsu on Anko. So am I a bitch or what? Anko said with a smirk. Everything looks good. There were some physical changes, most of them I expected based on my scans of Naruto at stage 2. But you also have Son Gentaic traits from Orochimaru as expected, but also of a snake. What type one can't identify. And from what I can tell, you're also highly aroused. Naruto, am I right in saying that you're suppressing her drive so she doesn't get in trouble? Tsunade said. I am. I gave my word IWOU. Didn't take Anko you ally until I became a genin, and I will not break my promise, or let Anko break hers. She needs time to adjust to her new abilities, but for now. Naruto said, then his eyes flashed red for a moment. No, please, not yet. Anko yelled, begging, then screamed as she dropped to her knees shaking and within seconds changed back to normal. Sleep, Naruto said. Anko collapsed, then he changed back to normal and let out a deep sigh. Tsunade, take Anko-chan to her room and put her in bed. Hi, Naruto-kun, Tsunade said, grabbed Anko's shirt and coat, scooped her up and vanished in a swirl of leaves. She's getting good at that, and in only a couple months. Not bad considering she never had much use for it when she was younger. So, what do you think? Naruto said as he got his shirt and jacket, slipping his shirt back on as he finished. I'm very proud of you for the restraint you showed, and want to thank you for not mentioning my reaction, and ask that for now you keep that a secret, as a favor to me. Kushina said, then smiled and hugged him when he nodded. She composed herself and put on her serious face. Overall it went as expected. We'll have to do some testing to see the full effect this had on her body and what she can do now. Did you form a mind link with her? Kushina said. Hi, there's an image of her in my mindscape, but it isn't her right now. She has a room in my mindscape like Tsunade. I can feel where they are. Are you sure you don't want me to mark you? I can share some of my power without turning you. Naruto said as he put his jacket on. I'm sure. I'm sorry Naruto-kun. I'm just not ready to share your mind with you yet, even if only to talk. There's just too much temptation to go too far, as it won't affect our bodies. I know it's been almost a year since your 10th birthday and I gave you and Tsunade permission to do certain things only in your mindscape, but I don't think I could handle walking in on you, so to speak. I know your emotions can get a little out of control when you use your power, and I'm very proud of you for not using them on me, especially in the last year since you started the road to manhood. We know you never intended to see me as anything but your mother, but the information we found on your power on some level will break that bond at least partially eventually. Even if you still treat me as your mother most of the time, everyone you care about, at least the women, will become your slaves or your wives. It's unavoidable, which is why I chose to let you take me as a wife. You're the only connection I have left to your father. You're like him in so many ways it almost makes me cry sometimes. I miss him more than you can imagine. I love you and all out friends dearly, but I can only ignore my own needs as a woman for so long. Though it's a month away, from now on when we're in the estate and only family is around, call me Kushina-chan, and if you want to, you can, kiss me like I'm your girlfriend. Just don't feel me up, okay, at least not until I'm ready. Kushina said. Hi, Kushina-chan, Naruto said and smiled. Does this fall under clan law, or does Hokage-sama need to be told? Since Anko isn't a namikaze he should be told what you can do. Kushina said. Now that I think about it, Anko is a namikaze now. Think about it, what makes someone a member of a clan? Marriage to a clan member, or the same bloodline, and in my case that's literal. I infused Anko with my blood as well as power. A genetic test would show that Anko shares my unique bloodline limit, so under clan law that automatically makes her family. Unless there's a clan law I'm unaware of. Naruto said. Kushina crossed her arms over her chest and thought a few moments before she smiled. You may know clan law better than I do, but don't let it go to your head. I'm still clan head, so until I step down I'm in charge. Which reminds me, I want you to promise me that no matter what else happens, you'll always love, respect and obey me as your mother. Kushina said seriously. Naruto walked up to Kushina, gave her a hug, then gently leaned her down and kissed her cheek. I promise. Besides, what's the point of becoming Hokage? Or just the strongest shinobi in the world, if you don't have family to share it with? Strong, handsome and smart too. I'm so proud of you Naruto-kun. Kushina said with a big smile. Don't forget very well endowed. Naruto said calmly, his fangs briefly visible as he did. I didn't forget about that big. Damn it Naruto. Kushina said with a slightly perverted smile, then gritted her teeth at the last part. Gotcha again, Naruto said with a small smile. I asked you not to do that to me. Kushina said. Actually, what you said was not to influence you in front of anyone, we're alone. Naruto said and smiled briefly. Don't get technical on me, smart ass. It's not like I'm embarrassed talking about. We've all shared the family hot spring and I taught you how to treat a girl. Even told you how to do your father's best UAL techniques, but that's clan business. I won't let my only child have any weaknesses as a shinobi or a man. Sorry about the lecture Naruto-kun. I guess I'm still a little thrown from what you just did to Anko. Your vampire power has grown so much stronger since you started feeding on Yuya. I'm sure you've noticed that your aura has gotten stronger, and has recently started to affect women you ally, even me. Kushina said. Hi, I need to train a little more to control it like any other ability. I'm sorry, I haven't thought about it lately, it usually isn't a problem. I'll do better from now on. Kushina-chan, Naruto said. Kushina ruffled his hair. Come on smart ass, how about we have a soak in the hot spring before dinner? Only if you'll make out with Tsunade. Naruto said calmly. Don't push it, Naruto, you aren't too old to spank. Kushina said. Neither are you, Naruto said without even a smirk. Kushina blushed and looked at him a moment before she started laughing. Your father tried that once before we're dating, Kushina said while laughing. What did you do? Naruto said, curious. Kushina stopped laughing a moment and looked at him seriously. Same thing I'll do to you if you get grabby before I'm ready. I busted his balls, Kushina said as she made a grab, crush and twist motion with her right hand. Naruto flinched slyly. I'll remember that. So when did you first date him? Kushina smirked. A week later, after our mission was over. He was just too cute when he apologized. I had to go out with him at least once. I never told him this, but I felt bad about what I did. But once I got to know the real Minato beneath the face he showed everyone, I knew he was the one. He was a nice guy, but he could be a little oblivious to women, sometimes intended to talk without thinking first. He was bluntly honest, which came across as rude occasionally, especially with women. In some ways you're just like him. Naruto nodded and smiled. Okay, we'll get Tsunade and you two can tell me about him while we soak. You can make out with her another time. Naruto said, then dodged a playful slap and headed for the house with her, both smiling. Naruto. Age 11. Kushina and Tsunade to his left, Anko and Tayuya to his right. Naruto looked at his friends from the academy. With everything that had happened in the last 3 months, he decided it was time to take the first of 5 steps, as he'd figured them. Does everyone know what happened 11 years ago? Naruto said. You were born, Naruto-kun. Hinata said with an amused smile. The Kyuubi attacked and was killed by the 4th Hokage who also died, is that what you're referring to? Sakura said. Naruto nodded. Show off, Ino said and gently elbowed her friend. Yes and no, Naruto said. Troublesome. Am I the only person that figured it out? Shikamaru said tiredly. The other kids looked at Shikamaru, most looked confused. Think about it. More chakra than all of us combined, and besides Tsunade and Ino's clan, how many people in Konoha have blonde hair? Shikamaru said. Well duh, only Naruto-kun and the… Ino said, then her eyes popped open, her jaw dropped and she stared at Naruto. Hope I didn't break the law, but I figured you were going to tell us anyway. Shikamaru said. No, you didn't Shika, and I was going to, so don't worry. Naruto said. It only took a minute for everyone to catch on. No wonder you smell like fox and have so much chakra. Kiba exclaimed and Akamaru barked. Every time I get close to surpassing you, Naruto, you pull something like this on me. Sasuke said, impressed and slightly annoyed. You can't tell anyone. This is an A-ranked secret punishable by death. But does anyone have a problem with me being a Jinchuriki or the 4th son? Naruto said calmly. No, you're just Naruto-kun to me, and you always will be no matter what. Hinata said strongly. Kushina glanced at Tsunade. She's definitely alpha material. Kushina whispered. Tsunade nodded slightly. Hi, I'd say she just volunteered for the position. Tsunade whispered. Agreed. Naruto said, so only the 4 women near him would hear. That went better than I thought. Naruto said. All shinobi are weird, Naruto-kun, but even for us you're in a class all by yourself. Everyone knows you have a Kekkei Genkei of some kind, but you never talk about it much or tell us what it really does. Hinata and Sasuke have their eyes. Kiba has his feral traits. To a smaller degree the rest of us have our clan jutsu, and Shino also has his bugs. You should know us better than that. No matter what you have in you, who you are or what you can do, we're your friends. And some of us want to be more. Ino said, then smirked as she thumbed toward Hinata. But don't hide it very well. Hinata blushed. The rest of you girls are much better at hiding your feeling about me. Naruto said calmly. Right. Damn it, Naruto. Ino said as she blushed. And each other. Naruto said with a smirk. Hi, Eep. Sakura said, blushed bright red and covered her face with her hands. Everyone turned and looked at Sakura. Sakura, are you gay? Ino said curiously. Sakura tensed up a moment, then nodded, still hiding her face. Mostly. Who ya hot for Sakura? Kiba said with a big smile. Sakura shook her head. No, please, I can't. Sakura said, obviously very embarrassed. Sakura, calm down. Naruto commanded. Sakura obeyed, standing tall and focused. What the hell? Ino said loudly, visibly shocked. Damn, our dogs don't obey that well. Kiba said, very impressed. How in the hell did you do? Ino said. Shut up, Ino. Naruto commanded. Kiba whistled. That's what I call control. Kiba said to himself with a small smirk when she obeyed instantly. Now, is everyone ready to listen? I think you're all ready to know all my secrets, but if you don't think you're ready I can make you forget this and send you home. Yes or no, are you ready? Naruto said and looked at each of them for their answer. Kushina, Tsunade, Anko and Tayuya watched and listened intently. Ready, Shikamaru said. Ready, Choji said, then put a handful of chips in his mouth. Ready, Hinata said. Ready, Tenten said. Ready, Shino said. Ready, Ino said, then sighed and smiled, glad she could talk again, showing how impressed she was at what he did. Ready, Sakura said. Ready, Sasuke said. Ready, Kiba said, then Akamaru barked his agreement. Good, I knew I could count on all of you. Now, while I know, I will not force Sakura-chan to reveal who she likes, and no one will press her to find out. Sakura, if anyone tries to make you tell them who it is, tell me and I'll handle it. Naruto said calmly, then gave everyone the friend or not I'll fuck you up glare. Everyone saw the glare and nodded. Sakura will tell that person when she's ready, then they will decide when to tell us. And I know all three of you are open to the idea to different degrees, so please don't bother trying to deny it. Sakura is just the only one to embrace that part of herself. A little more was revealed than I planned, but that's okay. Naruto said, then turned to the four with him. All in, and if ready make the offer? Naruto said quietly. This is bigger than the first two combined, and you know why. But I think they can handle it if you're careful. Kushina said. I agree, tell the girls first. I suggest Mindscape because Ino and Sakura know my strength technique. Not that you can't handle them, but someone else might get hurt if either freaks out. This way you're in total control. Tsunade said. I agree Naruto-kun. Anko said. You know my life before I met you Naruto-sama, and even I freaked out a little when you told me. Tayuya said. Naruto nodded. Anko, be ready. Naruto said and walked forward a few steps. Hinata, Tenten, Ino, Sakura, please join me. The girls nodded then walked up to Naruto, slightly nervous. There's something else, isn't there Naruto-kun? Hinata said. Hi, call it a final test before you can enter my secret club. All of you, please look into my eyes. Naruto said. They're in. Tsunade said. Look at his IC. Kiba said a little shocked. A dujutsu? Sasuke said, surprised. That's part of it Sasuke, he brought them into his mindscape for safety. I suggest you boys get ready, you're next. Anko said. What do you mean you've seen Naruto do that? Why didn't you tell me? Kiba said to Akamaru, slightly annoyed. Pecking order Kiba. Anko said and chuckled. Kiba looked at Akamaru. Little dogs don't piss off the alpha male. No offense Kiba, but that isn't you. Anko said then laughed a moment. Akamaru made soft yip and whimpering noises. Kiba sighed and rubbed Akamaru's head. It's okay, she's right. I hate admitting it but Naruto's big dog, everyone knows it. Everyone suddenly turned to Naruto and the girls when they tensed up and Naruto's chakras spiked for just a moment, then they separated. Dear Kami, Ino exclaimed, suddenly sweating and her skin flushed, staggered back and fell on her butt. Sakura was sweaty, her face was red and she was rubbing her thighs together for a moment, then fell on her butt. Hinata staggered a moment and fell to her knees, she was blushing, but her face showed awe more than anything else. Tenten staggered back, shocked, then just laid down panting. They tried to fight it, but after a few moments Ino and Tenten shot a hand between their legs, rubbing intensely. The boys were stunned. The women and Tayuya smirked. Anko was holding back intense laughter. Puberty jumpstart. Anko said and laughed briefly. Sakura rolled over, stopping on top of her friend, looking down into her shocked face. I don't care who knows, I love you Ino. She said then grabbed Ino's cheeks and planted a sizzling kiss on her lips, locking hers onto Ino's. Everyone stopped to watch. Almost a minute later, Ino pulled her arms free, wrapped them around Sakura and started kissing her back with equal intensity. I'm getting my. Anko said smiling broadly. Even say Kamara Anko and I'll totally numb your ass and clit for a month. Naruto interrupted coldly. Anko paled and hung her head in submission. I'm sorry Naruto-sama, please forgive your snake whore. Since it's your first offense in months you're forgiven, but you keep your movie hobby to your SLF until they graduate at least. Then you can ask them, not before. Naruto said. Anko nodded. Hi, Naruto-sama. As much as I'm enjoying the show, break it up you two. Naruto commanded. Ino and Sakura immediately separated and stood, blushing and smiling happily. Hypnotic voice? Ino asked. Hi, something like that. Before we continue. Are you two an item now? Naruto said. Sakura looking at her hopefully, Ino thought a moment then sighed. Hi, Ino said. All the other girls squealed happily, even Tayuya. Go congratulate them, we can wait another few minutes. Naruto said and watched all the girls swarm them, including his mother, Tsunade, Anko and Tayuya, to his slight embarrassment. Women complain about men being little boys, they're just as bad. Naruto said, very amused. 8:32 p.m., main hall. Come on Tsunade, back me up on this. You'd have been as offended as me if that pervert had been here and seen what happened earlier, you know he'd put that in his next book if we didn't stop him. Kushina said strongly. To be honest, no I wouldn't. I've been trying to tell you for months. I'm as big a pervert as Jiraiya, I even have all his books. Tsunade said embarrassed and a little ashamed. Tsunade Senju, Kushina said, a little stunned. Anko was struggling to hold in her laughter. Everyone knew about her fetishes and movie collection, both bought and the small collection she wrote, directed and in a few starred in, both UAL and fight-themed, all starring women and Kunoichi of Konoha. She'd only got them because they were for her private viewing only. And if she betrayed their trust in her Naruto would do things to her that'd make Ibiki puke. Then he'd really get mad. I'm also working on my own book, but it's still not done. Tsunade said. You knew this didn't you Naruto? Kushina said. Of course, but Jiraiya doesn't know. We're waiting to see how her book does once it's out. Naruto said. He was right. It came back and bit me right in the ass, just like he said it would. Kushina said, elbows on knees, put her face in her hands and slowly shook her head. And beat my tits, and kicked and ripped out my bush, and... Kushina thought. She'll tell you later Naruto, long story. Tsunade said. This is another of those painful childhood moments isn't it? Naruto said. Kushina nodded. You know I have issues Naruto-kun. But I've got nothing on Kushina, she has me beat hands down. Hers are more embarrassing than bloody. Tsunade said. For once. I don't want to know, I'll wait until. Naruto said then suddenly stood, his face emotionless, eyes red on black. What is it Naruto? Kushina said, she knew his reactions very well. Something strange is outside. Naruto said. I don't feel anything. Kushina said. I do. It's powerful, and if I'm right, related to your vampire power. That's why you can't feel it Kushina. Tsunade said. I can feel it now too. Anko said. Come on, Tayuya stay here. No one comes out. Naruto said then removed his jacket and with a grunt went full vampire. His new shirts had special slits in the back that opened to allow his wings to emerge without tearing his shirt. His entire wardrobe was currently being modified by Hotaru to allow him to transform safely, except for his jacket. He headed for the front door. Tsunade and Kushina followed him, Anko behind them. Naruto walked out onto the front grounds about 20 feet and stopped. That big shadow across the lawn isn't usually there. Naruto said. The three women nodded. Show yourself. Now. Naruto commanded, flaring her vampire power briefly. The shadow seemed to shimmer a moment then faded to reveal a giant, jet black wolf with slitted yellow eyes in a low crouch. It smiled and seemed to chuckle a moment before sitting up, to 20 feet. Damn, that's a big fucking wolf, has to be a summon. But who? No one I know of has a summon contract for wolves. Anko said. It opened its mouth, rolled out its tongue and laid a thick, 4 feet long scroll at Naruto's feet before retracting it. You do Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I'm Shadow Stalker and it's taken me 4 years to find you. I could only track you when you used your power, and even then only your general direction until I got close. Shadow said in a deep voice. If you're Naruto's summon, how did you seek him out? He never signed that contract. Kushina said, calm, but slightly confused. He's my summoner now, the contract is a formality, but he's not my master until he signs it. Shadow said. Naruto picked up the contract, unrolled and read it. Interesting. Naruto? Kushina said. There are special conditions for this contract, not just anyone can sign it, and it isn't like a normal summoning contract. This is specifically for my vampire power and anyone under its influence. Which means at the moment Mom, if I signed it, Tsunade, Anko and Tayuya could all use it and gain the benefits, but you wouldn't. Naruto said. Because you haven't marked or turned me, understood? Kushina said calmly, but inside her choice to wait until Naruto graduated before submitting to him got much harder. Piercing his own palm with his right index finger, Naruto signed the contract in blood infused with his vampire power. It glowed a moment and turned black as dry as the ink of the contract. Shadow's stalker vanished in red smoke. He wasn't the boss, was he? Tsunade said. No, he wasn't. I just gained new knowledge from signing the contract. Only I can summon the boss, he won't appear for anyone else, and will only obey me. Naruto said, then with a small grunt changed back to normal. There's a lot of new information I need to sort through, so I'm heading to bed, you should too. Night ladies, mom. Tsunade and Anko nodded, turned and headed for the house. Naruto turned to Kushina, his nostrils subtly flared for a moment. Did you want something, mom? Just tell him, say it, you know he's noticed. Your clit is so hard you can sharpen a kunai on it. Kushina thought, her face calm. Are you going to mark any of the girls before graduation? Kushina said. I might, I haven't decided how I'm going to divide up the other abilities yet. Is that all you wanted? Naruto said, then obviously glanced at her crotch so she'd see him. Kushina bit her bottom lip a moment. Give me an hour then come to my bedroom, I don't want to talk about this here. Naruto nodded, then followed her back into the house. 9:35 p.m., Kushina's bedroom. Naruto walked into her bedroom, shutting the door behind him. As he crossed the room he saw her put a seal on the room. She was sitting on the side of the bed in her normal black trimmed, red silk pajamas. Despite being tied loosely he could tell she was aroused from the small subtle bumps in her top. He stopped in front of her, he was wearing his pajamas. They matched hers but the colors were reversed, black with red trim. Contract or personal? Personal, Kushina said and sighed. I won't even try to hide how aroused I am. While you suggested a female lover, Tsunade and Anko volunteered. Tayuya and Makeru would do it happily if I told them to, but I can't do that yet. Though I will admit I've been tempted. We both know what's holding me back. I know you'd do anything to protect me, lay the world at my feet or burn it to ash, friends and all. We've been keeping track of your power, particularly the effect your aura has on women, me especially, and based on my calculations I won't last the year and a half to your graduation. So please tell me, Naruto-kun, can you put your feelings for me as your mother aside and do what you know I need you to? Kushina said sincerely. I could just mark you, then you can enter my mindscape and… Naruto said. No, Kushina interrupted. There are many things you don't know about me, Naruto-kun. I won't go into detail but basically one of my Q-works is a very powerful drive. Remember when I told you about how I first fell for your father and why I first went out with him? What I didn't tell you was that as soon as I knew he was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I only lasted a week before we were fucking like animals. Our emotional, and occasionally physical, battles are how he won me over, though I didn't realize it at the time. He was my first love. You know, Kyuubi was the key that unlocked your vampire bloodline. What even Tsunade doesn't know is that I was the lock. When you first developed your mental ability to enter someone's mind and basically control their thoughts, remember you couldn't do it to me. It wasn't because I was stronger than you. I can't be forced to believe or do something against my will. It's a special ability I have, call it an immunity to genjutsu. I know if I'm in one and can break even the strongest genjutsu. This is why I can't just submit to you no matter how much I may want to. It's a rare ability of the main family of the Uzumaki clan. Kushina said. Naruto was quiet a few moments. Ah, that would explain some things that have always bothered me, and people say I can always surprise them. I know where I get it now, from you. Can you wait until her birthday? I need the time to adjust to and test the limits of my new summon contract, and I think I'm right that she's my alpha. If she is, I'll turn her, as soon as she's adjusted and accepts her role. I'll do it. We both know you won't settle for anything less than being turned and taking your place with Tsunade at my side. Naruto said. Hi, you're right. I can wait, just keep this between us until then. Kushina said. Of course, anything for you, Ka-san. Naruto said, gave her a kiss, then after she unsealed the room he left for bed. I might as well borrow one of those books from Tsunade. If I'm going to be a pervert like everyone else, I might as well get started tearing down those mental walls now. Kushina said, sighed and headed for her door.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.